Qu'est-ce qui pourrait nous avoir cette fois? Allez, c'est parti. Le gaming. Blablabla, oui, c'est fiction, bien sûr. Il nous aura pas comme ça, Béatrice. Je sais bien que tout est réel. Ce n'est pas de la magie. Ah, c'est vrai qu'on y allait direct. You idiot. Isn't it obvious? It will be fun to kill her and see your face twist in pain. Why else? Look, look. Don't turn your eyes away. Look at it. Look, look, look. It's magic, it's furniture. No matter how much you try to deny me on magic, look, look. Sorry, Battler. It was pretty fun. Sure, I just did what teacher told me, but look how great it turned out. Apparently, if you Je me suis déjà fait avoir la dernière fois. Non, oui, c'est normal. Apparently, if you start out all hostile and needlessly brutal, then dirt incompetent and soft at just the right moment, you can spark a huge bump on your affection meter, right? Elle est pas un peu forte la musique ou ça va? Bébou. C'est vrai qu'on l'a brisée la pauvre. Elle est toute cassée maintenant. That lonely tone was the desolate sound of the wind blowing by. The glittering rose petals on these bushes were all golden. The cloud of gold butterflies that had once danced through this golden rose garden like fluttering rose petals was no longer anywhere to be seen. The master of the Golden Land is the Golden Witch, Beatrice. She might be called inhumane and cruel, arrogant and outrageous, or perhaps naive and simple. Je peux plus voir naïve maintenant. Naïve, 2 frames late. That laugh of hers, which lost its grace more and more the longer it continued, could no longer be heard. The Golden Witch Beatrice sat like a doll, resting in a deck chair adorned as beautifully as the golden rose garden itself. She wasn't relaxing there. Her eyes were empty. She didn't respond to any questions. Even so, she was not permitted to sleep. Beatrice sat like a doll. Her hair was down, and Virgilia was carefully tending to it with a comb. The usual Beata would surely have spent this time complaining about this and that regarding her hairstyle. However, she made no response, showed no reaction. So it really only looked like Virgilia was combing the golden hair of her large doll. J'ai oublié de remettre les... Vous n'êtes pas là? On ne vous voit pas? J'ai oublié. Attendez. Et le timer, putain. Ça fait longtemps, ça fait longtemps, ça fait longtemps. Hop. Timer. Et normalement, vous êtes là désormais. There was a table alongside them. On it sat a chessboard, along with a jumble of black and white pieces locked in a closely fought battle. However, this setup looked somehow different from normal chess. Maybe the game was similar, though not identical. And on the other side, sitting back in his chair as he contemplated his next move, was a young man. No, perhaps it wasn't his next move he contemplated. Every once in a while, he would change the positions of the pieces, reconsidering the situation after every change. Maybe he was reconstructing previous games, trying to discover the thought process behind the moves that had been made. In the past, Kinzo, the Ushinomiya family head, once said that learning chessboard arrangements was like taking a journey through the thoughts of the old masters. Ushinomiya Battler was on a journey. A search for the thought process that had led the Golden Witch to create this arrangement and make these moves. Battler took a black piece that should have been moved forward and returned it to its original place, sighing deeply. Battler's pieces were white. However, on this chessboard, the black encampment was on Battler's side. He was orchestrating that arrangement, trying to play Beato's role. The more I do this, the less I understand your moves. Even Battler didn't expect that Beato would respond to that statement. Or rather, he was pretending to talk to himself, thinking there might still be some chance of her responding. Béatrice avec les cheveux! Beto's eyes reflected nothing, and her mouth told nothing. After begging him to kill her, the Golden Witch had become a corpse that had given up on life. She wasn't sleeping. She couldn't step down from this game and was therefore forbidden sleep. So those words must have reached their ears. However, they probably hadn't reached their heart. The Golden Witch would not sneer at Battler's moves, nor would she praise them or belittle them. By now, Beatrice was nothing more than an unaliving doll. Even so, she would glance at him every once in a while. Pour rappel, à la fin du chapitre 4, le climax et tout, la vraie question c'était qui suis-je? Who am I? Il faut trouver qui est Béatrice. Qui est Béatrice? Visiblement, Béatrice, un peu. Visiblement, Battler est censé se souvenir de quelque chose, et même encore pire, Battler ne serait pas Battler, parce qu'il se souvient pas de quelque chose. Donc ça se trouve, c'est pas vraiment Battler qu'on joue. Bref, la réflexion sera pour plus tard. Even so, she would glance at him every once in a while. It will be an empty glance, but a glance nonetheless. Sometimes she would seem to make some sort of gesture, or even move her lips. However, her movements never managed to communicate anything to Battler. How do you decide on this move in this situation? I don't get it at all. I don't understand your moves. Beato, Battler-kun is talking to you. Say something. Giggle or guffaw or something. Even use that shrill laugh of yours if you want. Can you believe it? That shrill laugh of Beato's will never be heard again. However, even if she could not answer, his voice surely reached her. That was what Battler believed as he said those words. So he said it again. How did you decide on this move in this situation? I don't get it at all. I don't understand your moves. So you don't understand what this child is thinking? She answered in her disciple's stead. Up to this point, she had done her best to avoid speaking for Beato. After all, there was a chance that Beato would respond in some way, and Virgilia didn't want to be the one to steal that chance. So Battler was going to have to bear with this silence, until Beato herself answered. Virgilia could no longer bear to watch Battler like this. Besides, Battler also wanted to hear what Virgilia had to say. He believed that conversation would reach Beato's heart. Yep, I don't have a clue. The more I try standing in Beato's shoes and moving the pieces like this, the less I understand. A serial murder following an epitaph. With that as a victory condition, I tried reconstructing the games from the witch's side, but I never ended up making the moves Beato did. In those games, I could find several incomprehensible moves that clearly worked against that victory condition. I don't get it at all. This journey through her thoughts is just too rugged. Even so, you won't give up, will you? I won't. I promised. Kill me. Let me die. I promised to let her die peacefully, and I'm the only one who can do it. Bato's right ankle was bound with a heavy, cold steel shackle. It wasn't tied to anything, so it didn't restrict her movement. However, it symbolized restriction. It was a visualization of the bonds that prevented her from leaving the game until she either won or lost. And the shackle was probably hurting her. The mercilessly cold shackle tormented her over and over inside her waking dream. so there was never any sigh of relief in her empty expression. Her eyelids would sometimes tremble like she was having a nightmare, and every once in a while she would let out a pained gasp. Unless I win, Bato will never be released from the curse that prevents her from sleeping peacefully. Are you sure you want to be doing this? It seems the 5th game has already started. Not interested. Why should I take part in any game unless Bertos is my opponent? If that's the only alternative, then it's a much better use of my time to reconstruct previous games while taking a journey in search of Beato's thought process. C'est vrai que Bern Castle et Lambda Delta ont lancé leur propre game, elles. Ils étaient en mode, vas-y, on lance notre game. I'll be the next game master? Any objection? You've got none, right? I've got nothing but objections. Better considered the fight until it's unconscious. Isn't this a loss by default and game over for her? I'll admit that a lot happened to Beato, and she's basically been cowed by for now. But that doesn't mean she's lost the will to fight. That's why I'm acting as her assistant. Get it? Beato was lying down on a deck chair, almost as though she was sleeping. However, she wasn't sleeping, and she wasn't awake either. She was nothing more than a living doll that had given up on victory, who had asked Battler to perform her last rites, and who had surrendered everything. Of course, if everyone just sat around, the next game, the 5th game, would never be made ready. So Lambda Delta had succeeded Beato as the next game master and announced that she'd prepare the next game. Quit messing around. This is a game between me and Beato. I don't know who you two are, but I'm not gonna let you carry on without us. No one asked for your opinion. What will you do, Bern? Accept my challenge or not? Sure. Go ahead and inherit our role. Quit messing around. I don't know who you people are, but I'm not gonna let you ignore Beatrice and me. Just carry on by yourselves. Hey, take it easy. Okay, sure. A new player means you'll face no kinds of moves. I'm sure you'll see a lot of stuff that confuses you, but even that might lead to some big hints. Get it? Who cares? Quit saying whatever you want and deciding everything on your own. Beto's game has repeated 4 times, and you still don't understand anything, right? In that case, I expect that swapping out opponents might lead to some huge hints. That's none of your business. This is our game. Beato prepared it. She designated me to be our opponent. I don't know what all you two crept out of, but I don't want you screwing things up. In that case, wake Beato up and make her get the next game ready. Can you? Beato won't be getting up for a while. Anyway, we don't even need to have another game. The 4 games she's already laid out are more than enough. And even if we do have some 5th game, there's no reason it shouldn't just be a puzzle Beato lays out and I take on. There's absolutely no reason for you two to butt in. Battler couldn't hide his irritation at the 2 witches called Lambda Delta and Burn Castle, who had shown up well after the game start and who were now trying to take charge on their own. It looked like these witches were of an even higher rank than Beato. So high, in fact, that even Beato's teacher Vigilia couldn't even come close. Battler had the feeling he'd seen those 2 several times before. However, this was the first time he'd known their names and spoken to them directly. You can't get the next game ready without breaking Beato. That's why I'll prepare the next game. We're so patient that we're willing to wait forever for Beato to regain consciousness. Right, Bern? I don't like boredom. It really ticks me off. We really don't give a damn whether you're bored or not. Come on now. Leave everything to this perfect Lambda-Delta-sama, okay? I'll take over as the game master. Don't worry, I won't play with too much absolute perfection. Just like Beato, I'll set up plenty of incompressible fakes, clues, and bonus hints. I'll make this game a huge hint that will help you understand Beato's world even better, okay? Letting my voiceless emotions explode, I slammed the table hard. The 2 witches didn't flinch at all. One grinned. The other looked indifferent, as though nothing had happened. The 2 of them just stared at me silently, as though they were reproaching me. What's this? Not satisfied? Are you saying you'll step down from my fifth game? Isn't that a loss by default? Butler won't step down. Of course, he'll participate in the fifth game. Don't just decide that yourself. I'm not gonna play along with you two. I don't give a shit. Then it really is a loss by default, right? The which side wins this game? Is it really okay to end with the humans surrendering? If you step down, the game will end with your loss by default. Get it? If you wanna guarantee that your lonely sister always meets with miserable circumstances in an endless number of worlds, that option is indeed open to you. Van Castle, on pourrait croire que c'est une gentille, mais elle nous la met vraiment mal, hein. Elle nous manipule. C'est terrible. When Ben Castle mentioned Ange, Butler's expression changed instantly. You bastard. Don't you dare talk about Ange so lightly. Because you have an ally in me, Van Castle, the Witch of Miracles, there exists the possibility of a miracle in which Ange's family comes home to her. Well, if you do throw that chance away and guarantee that Ange's endless futures all end in sorrow, that might be pretty interesting too. I vaguely understood what she was saying. Until I win in Beato's game, I'll remain trapped in this bizarre world. And if I abandon that victory, then most certainly my parents and I will never return to Ange. For Ange's sake, even though I know that the witches are toying with me, I must keep on fighting. Damn it! What's wrong? You look unsatisfied. Have you already forgotten how angry you were? When your sister was turned to mincemeat? You know, that spectacle, where she was torn to bits, ripped to pieces by countless red-hot pliers? You'd better watch more closely next time, okay? AB. Ben Castle pointed the palm of her right hand upwards. As she did, a pale light gathered there and some kind of blue glowing crystal appeared there. A scene was reflected on its sharp surface, but it wasn't the scene that surrounded them now. If you look deep into that crystal, that fragment, then you will probably learn what was reflected on there. If you stared at it, then you'd surely see the Ange finally the end Ange finally reached, after waiting 12 years and giving up everything for the sake of her beloved brother. The scent of her death rose, as her entire body was torn to bits while she still lived. D'ailleurs, on n'en parle pas assez, mais Ange a fait de la magie dans le chapitre 4. Hein. Est-ce qu'elle était vraiment en full des Lulu ou pas? J'ai envie de dire que oui, mais... Damn you. Without thinking, he grabbed at her collar, but as soon as he touched that which made her proper form, it disappeared like foam on the waves. Then, as naturally as though she had been there from the beginning, Ben Castle was leaning against a distant wall. If you step down from the game, this would become not just a fragment, but a definite reality. I won't be the one to create that future. You'll do it yourself. So decide, okay? Figure out what you wanna do with your beloved little sister's future. Butler's fist shook with anger, but even if he swung them down, he wouldn't be able to hit Ben Castle. This witch was like a phantom, or a cat who wouldn't even let someone pet her if she didn't wish for it. And she was telling the truth. For Ange's sake, I can't step down from this game. Even if these unpleasant witches hijack the game board. That's just like you, Bird. You're even earthless when you threaten people. That's how it is, Butler. You aren't allowed to step down from the game board. You and Beato are nothing more than pieces on the game board that exist to distract us from our boredom. Even your incomprehensible anger and irritation make for a wonderful treat to satisfy us. Well, what you're doing now only makes for a cheap snack, though. Like those curry-flavored potato wafers that sell for 30 yen a pair. J'aime pas qu'on a fait cette tête, Bernd Castle. C'est pas du tout une alliée. You damn witches. Fight for Andrew's sake, okay? And for Beatus too, right? In a way that was admonishing, or perhaps babying, like the headache you get after eating something too sweet, Mancastle tormented Battler and smiled. By now, the host of this tea party, Beato, was absent. The guest witches were already making themselves at home. What will you do, Shilomia Battler? Will you surrender to fate? And just step down. You've had enough of being toyed with as a witch's piece, right? It sure is tough being one of Bern's pieces. I'm sure she'll use you and throw you away just like she did with Ange. I'm not giving you the option of stepping down. Keep fighting for the sake of your sister's future. I'm your ally. Until you win, I will support you so you can reach that future. For all eternity, until I get bored. I can't let her provocation and casualry rile me up. Casualry! These witches know I get mad easily, and they're trying to take advantage of that. Battler withstood it all and finally relaxed in his clenched fists. If you wanna start this fist game of yours, go ahead and do it. Do whatever you want. Yes, I will do whatever I want. Hey, where are you going? Even though Battler acknowledged this fist game, he turned his back on them, much to Londonder's surprise. If you're gonna be Bear's substitute, then I'm sure that Ben Castle Witch, that Bear Castle Witch over there, can stand in for me if she wants. Not a bad idea. Better than a loss by default. What the heck? Are you gonna just ignore this episode 5 that I put so much effort into making? Rude, rude! Battler says he's going to take a break for a while. Until he comes back, I'll be his substitute. How's that sound, Battler? You do that. Est-ce que Lambda Delta serait pas juste l'auteur? What's wrong, Lambda? So, you refuse to play if it's against me? It's not that full, Battler. Of course not. I'm glad I get to play with you, Vern. Come on, let's play, let's play. Let's play together in Lambda Delta's super hyper and cute episode 5. This technically is a world Beato created. You aren't going to ruin the atmosphere of the story, are you? Don't worry about that. I'm really good at reading between the lines for that sort of stuff. Spoiler, elle est absolument à chier. Ça, c'est un perso qui est absolument à chier à lire entre les lignes. I made sure to use a Beato-ish atmosphere to make a tale that's even more interesting. Battler, make sure you come back as soon as your break's over, okay? It'd be a shame to miss this. I've set up plenty of bonus hints that get you closer to Beato's secret. Or at least that's what it will look like when it's actually filled with misdirection that makes stuff more and more confusing. Wait, hey, Battler, why aren't you listening when a witch is talking? Without answering, Battler disappeared into the darkness. After shrugging and cackling, the witches immediately started playing with the game board they had stolen from Beato. Can those witches really understand Beato's game? Since they're using the same game board, they cannot do anything that this child cannot do. However, they can do things that this child wouldn't do. What do you mean things she wouldn't do? The material of chess exists so that you can play chess. You cannot use them to play cards. However, when it comes to throwing chess pieces at your opponent and scribbling on the board, such things are not impossible to do. However, that would be blasphemy against the game of chess, so people choose not to do that. That definitely wouldn't be chess anymore. Bato's eyes seem to cloud slightly with sadness. Damn them. This game's between me and Beato. I won't let anyone else defile it. Pourquoi on fait des exercices de logique? Comment ça maintenant? Ça fait 80 heures qu'on fait des exercices de logique, VGC. At that time, gold butterflies gathered and Ronov appeared. Genji Ronov holding a tea set with black tea. Oh, would you like some tea? If you wouldn't mind. Certainly. So, how goes this journey of heroes in search of Milady's star? I don't have a clue, but I'm enjoying it. However, are you sure about this? The Devil's Proof. Est-ce que vous avez pensé à retourner l'échiquier? Attendez, je reviens. Ok, hop là. Mais les brown tubes. Les brown tubes de ma télé cathodique. Oh là là. Ah bah oui, t'as peut-être pas vu du coup VGC, c'était quoi là? Est-ce que tu peux prouver qu'une chose n'est pas arrivée? C'est pas parce que tu peux pas prouver qu'une chose n'est pas produite qu'elle ne s'est pas produite. Hé. Tu n'as pas besoin d'apporter la preuve que une chose se sont passées ainsi si elles auraient pu se passer ainsi. Bref, enfin, c'est... Ouais, bon, bref, je suis peut-être un peu confus, mais l'idée est là. Ça fait longtemps qu'on a joué à Umineko. Is it truly alright for you to relax there? C'est littéralement des maths, hein. On avait un exemple de contraposé aussi. Il y a l'exemple de contraposé. C'est beaucoup de logique. Et d'échecs. Et du coup, là, tout notre objectif, c'est de prouver que les choses se sont produites sans magie. Même si on n'a pas d'explication. Imaginons, t'as un truc, ça a l'air totalement magique. Tu ne peux pas expliquer que... T'arrives pas à expliquer autrement que par la magie, mais tu peux pas prouver que ça n'a pas été fait par autre chose que de la magie. Dans ce cas-là, bah, ta preuve est là, quoi. La preuve est, bah, tu peux pas prouver que ça n'a pas été fait par quelqu'un et pas de la magie, donc... Probablement le philosophe, VGC. C'est le philosophe qui gagne, c'est le juge qui gagne. Probablement le matheux. You mean that games those witches just attend by themselves? Indeed. Just now, when I went to serve them some tea, the murders of the first twilight had already taken place. And it seemed as though the next murder would occur shortly. When Berto and I were playing, the game would be paused whenever someone left their seats. However, those witches wouldn't pause that game just because I wasn't around. Ronald, did you see that game? Just a part of it. How was it? Ronald lifted the pot high with an elegant gesture as he poured the black tea. After finishing that, he finally spoke. He gave us his impressions of it. It did not have love. What do you mean, love? My apologies. That is how a woman might put it. As a man, one might call it dishonorable. I understood what those words meant, because I'm a man. When I met Virgilia's eyes, she shook her head slightly and stared at the floor. I believe it resembles Milady's game greatly on the surface. However, its foundation is quite different. Does it go against the rule of Beato's game? No, it does not. That Delta-sama actually does understand the rules of Milady's game very well. However... Battler stood up. There was no need to make Ronov say anymore. Battler-kun. Sorry, Ronov. I know you went to all the trouble of pouring this for me, but tea isn't what I need. So, you will go after all? Yeah. We don't need any outsider in our game. This guy, we're not even here in the beginning. Because I've been loafing around, crazier and crazier witches have been introduced, and now they've hijacked this game between me and Beatrice. I've gotta take it back. Right now, I'm supposed to be the one taking care of Beato's game board. That means I can't just sit around here. Thank you. I wanted to let this child hear those words. I'm sure she hears them. Milady is simply unable to answer. Beato lay there silently, like a living doll with dull eyes. The game board she had created herself had been hijacked by impressible people, and was being turned into a mess. If I was designated to be her opponent, then Beato must have created this game for me. I've got to take it back. Wait here. I'll go and take it back. Our game! Of course, Beato didn't respond in any way. That's right. If she can't respond, then I have to protect it in her place. I'll be right back. Virgilia, Renov, I'm counting on you two to look after this golden sipping beauty. Yes, leave it to us. See you later, Battler-kun. And please, in the game without this child, try to find some part of her. If you can, then even if this child is absent, it will mean you have fought with her. You're right. It's all useless. What am I doing? Let's go, and let's take it back. Sorry to keep you waiting, witches. My break is over. When he faced the giant black heavens and yelled this, the whole world shattered and as though it were made out of thin glass. Moi j'espère vraiment que c'est pas Béatrice qui est en train d'essayer de nous la mettre à l'envers encore. Je pense que à la fin de la troisième game, elle essaie de nous la mettre à l'envers, mais là elle est vraiment brisée. Si c'est encore un piège de sa part, bah c'est fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Ce sera my bad. Then, as though it had been... Pas deux fois, non mais pas deux fois. Ce serait trop deux fois. Et là, elle a l'air vraiment brisée. L'autre fois, elle essayait de nous avoir à la pitié, mais là, c'est vraiment... Elle est juste... elle joue plus. Elle en a marre. Then, as though it had been that way since the beginning, it transformed into that smoking room where Battler had fought Beato so many times, and which the two witches had now hijacked. Elle a tué beaucoup de monde, oui, bien sûr. Bien sûr, elle a tué beaucoup de monde. Après, ça ne reste que de Ouais, je sais pas. What do you think you're doing? You're only coming back now? It's way too late. Not only has the game reached the second day, it's already at the final, get it? You never showed up, so I just haven't things on my own. Yeah, like you even waited for me in the first place. Ben was way more skillful and thrilling than you were, right? Shut up. I'm the player. You substitute witches can just take a step back now. Well, I don't really mind if you join in starting now, but there's probably no need for you anymore. Seriously? After all, we're already at the climax. After this, Ben will probably corner me and win. What the hell? Nothing wrong with that, is there? Why don't we let him watch the final endgame? Of course! Come on over, show me a battler. It's almost completely over, but here's the cute and elegant game I made. Episode 5. End of the Golden Witch. Genre c'est la fin, on va gagner. Y a plus rien après. Et on s'était arrêté là, je crois. Ah! Oh merde! J'ai rien ouvert, hein, ça s'est ouvert tout seul. Donc... Ok. Bon, alors, en mort, on a Jessica. FF. Dans la guest house. Ça, on n'a jamais eu de mort dans la guest house. Enfin, si, il y en a eu. Mais pas la première fois. Pas le premier soir. On avait vu qu'il était vivant et mort. Voilà, c'est tout ce qu'on avait vu. Donc Jessica, Georges. Ouais. Et lui, c'est dans le... Attends, mais ils sont pas au même endroit. Guest House et Mansion. Maria est morte le début. Georges méritait. Mais non, mais Georges, c'est le GOAT. Maria est morte. Ça, c'est très rare. Rosa est morte. Méritée. Elle, c'est mérité. On n'en parle pas assez de cette batteuse d'enfants. Ouais. Et ici, on a quoi? On a Béatrice, ok. Ok. Qu'est-ce qui se passe ici? Bah, on joue à la suite du Umineko. Enfin, la suite, chapitre 5. Alors, ça s'est bien fini ta run, Itaku? Tac. Bien qu'elle soit là pour faire chier là, c'est pas une alliée. Hein. Virgilia, ouais. Renov, le GOAT. Gap, spécial. Gap, elle est là. Pour on ne sait quelle raison, Gap est là. Mais ok. Pourquoi Gap est là? Pourquoi elle apparaît alors que les autres apparaissaient pas? Je sais pas. C'est un sacré design, hein? Il s'intéresse à une mineure. Ah, c'est vrai! J'avais oublié ce détail. Mais après... Non, c'est tout. Non, non. Y'a rien à dire de plus. Non, non, mais... Après... Attendez. Moi, je dis... C'est un meuble, voilà. Un beau meuble de 6 ans d'âge. 16 ans, 16 ans. Non mais... 16, 23... Bon, il est mort, il est mort. Non mais c'est un jeu, c'est le Japon, voilà, c'est bon. En vrai, je sais même pas pourquoi, en fait. Je sais même pas ce que ça apporte. Ils auraient pu la mettre avant, ça aurait rien changé. Mais bon, on s'en fout. Konnichiwa, Japon, Japon. Bref, allez, on a tout vu. Le deuxième jour, octobre 5, 1986. Et là, c'est vraiment... C'est la merde. Ok. Ok. Donc là, on est dans la guest room. Ah bah oui, Georges, il est bien mort, là. Tu m'étonnes qu'il chiale. Right now, no humans exist on this island except for those in the parlor. And with one exception, it has been shown that none of them have committed murder. And the culprit is among these people. Oh! Donc ça veut dire que si tout le monde a prouvé qu'il n'a pas fait le meurtre et qu'il n'en reste plus qu'une... Wow, 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 wow. That means it's conclusive, isn't it? Unless the culprit is a witch, who committed murder with magic, that is. It was you? You killed George? Killed my husband? Why? Why? Ah... Pauvre Natsuki. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't. In a panic and with a voice that was far from calm, in a manner that was, to put it coldly, unsightly, Aunt Natsui denied the suspicion placed upon her. Parce qu'il est marié... Non mais... Georges, c'est l'enfant de elle et de lui. However, there was no longer any way around it. She stood up, brushed back her long hair, pointed at Aunt Natsui and said it one more time. Ok, bon bah on en est là. Mais... D'accord. Qui es-tu? Bon bah du coup c'est exactement le perso que j'avais vu que je me suis fait spoil, donc très drôle. Qu'on tombe direct une phrase après là où on avait avancé. Mais qui est-ce? Je n'en ai aucune idée, mais elle ressemble un peu à Berncastle. Elle a les yeux bleus aussi. Non, mais surtout elle a les yeux bleus. C'est une sorcière? Qu'est-ce qui est fou là? Pourquoi est-ce que Berncastle elle a mis son self-insert dans le jeu? C'est vraiment ça en fait. Attends. C'est moche. Comme toujours. Comme toujours. Quelle voix je lui fais à elle? Oh là là. Oh, j'en peux déjà plus. Ça va être... Bah, tu crois vraiment que Lambda Delta elle ferait pas de la merde? Je pense qu'elle a rajouté 20 persos qui ont rien à voir avec le jeu. Lambda Delta elle a rien compris au jeu, hein. You're the culprit. Shiromiya Natsui-san. Ouh! Ça y est, on a l'opening. C'est qui? Tellement ma termine. Il y a un opening à chaque chapitre. Est-ce que finalement, Battler et Béatrice... Non, plus tard. Je savais que t'allais réagir. Bref. Mais... On s'est vraiment arrêté juste... Oh, oui, allô, quelqu'un? On s'est vraiment arrêté juste avant et... Là, on a loupé, bah du coup, comme on arrive en plein milieu du jeu, on sait pas qui c'est, on sait pas ce qui s'est passé. Kraus, il est mort? Non, il est pas mort, Kraus. Attends, on peut vérifier, mais... Ah, bah on peut pas vérifier, en fait. Mais pour moi, il est pas mort. Pour moi, c'est Jessica, George, son père, Maria, Rosa et Genji qui sont morts. It's Natsui, please open up. As she knocked loudly and repeatedly, Natsui yelled. Ah mais oui, attends, on l'a pas vu? Putain. Bah après, tu me diras, on n'a pas vu Kinzo non plus. On n'a pas vu Kinzo non plus, mais bon, ça, c'est, on a l'habitude. On a l'habitude de pas le voir, Kinzo. Parce qu'il est déjà mort, en fait. Tan. Shortly after, there was a heavy clunking sound, and the sound of the door to Kinzo's study unlocking could be heard. As the door opened, a evilly sweet, venomous odor flowed out. Natsui was always ashamed of how she automatically grimaced at that.
Le diaporama, tu viens de louper l'opening, Nibo. Il était trop bien. Et le jeu est très bien aussi.
Even though she thought it rude to the family head, Cross was waiting for her inside the study. Natsui flew into his arms. His father, is he? Calm yourself. Dr. Nanjo is examining him now. With an uncertain gait, Natsui walked towards the center of the study, supported by Kraus. There, a dignified bed fitting for the Ishinomiya family head could be seen, along with Nanjo, Genji, and Kumasawa. Dr. Nanjo, his father... After sighing deeply, Nanjo left the side of the bed. On the bed, Kinzo could be seen lying down, asleep. He died peacefully. I don't think Kinzo-san had any regrets.
Est-ce que ça, c'est un préquel à ce qui va se passer sur les... Bah non, c'était le deuxième jour. Mais what? Genre, il est juste mort.
Father! Father! Sobbing, Natsui slumped over the chest of that man, who had fallen into a sleep from which he could never awaken. Madame, please, stay strong.
Ah là, y a pas de magie, y a rien. Hein. Enfin, y a pas de magie, mais y a un perso qui pop de nulle part. Genre, en plus, elle a vraiment fait en mode You're the culprit, ils ont ramené Sherlock Holmes. Belle expression.
Natsui... No, c'est pas Natsuki, c'est Natsui. Natsui couldn't stop crying over the death of the man whom she had loved like a second father. Kumasawa rubbed Natsui's back, consoling her. Cross slumped into his late father's favorite chair. By sitting there, he might have been immersed in memories of his departed father. Perhaps he thought that by sitting there, he might be able to understand just a bit of the madness of Kinzo's later years, which he had never been able to comprehend before. And Nanjo, just as he had when Kinzo once sat in that chair, contemplating a chess move, turned his back and looked down over the outside world through a crack in the curtains. If only he'd been sick in bed for a year or so first. I do wish he could have died after a grace period during which the proper arrangements could have been made. It's the other way around. We should be glad that he was in high spirits until the very end. At least that's true, as far as public appearances are concerned. Nanjo understood that as well. Ishinomiya Kinzo, who had risen like a comet and glittered like a supernova in the post-war business world, had died. His funeral would probably be of a fantastic scale, and it would also be the ceremony marking Cross's inheritance of the headship. He would have to arrange everything as the host of the event, carry out funeral diplomacy perfectly, and make it clear to all that the Ishinomiya family still had enormous influence in the political and financial spheres. As Nanjo watched Kraus, he was vividly reminded of the time when Kinzo had been suddenly selected as the Ishinomiya family head, when Kinzo had been lost and confused. In this way, he was able to understand Cross's distress and sympathize with it. Natsui's sobs eventually subsided. Watching this and leaving Kumasawa to care for Natsui as a fellow woman, Genji returned to where Cross was. And as though asking what should be done, Genji lowered his head slightly.
T'inquiète, Gilef. T'inquiète, remets-toi bien, hein. Guéris. Guéris donc, c'est principal. On pourra toujours faire ça plus tard si tu veux le faire. Dors bien, dors bien.
Genji-san and I will deal with the formalities. Cross-san, perhaps you should contact the relatives first. Cross, with his hands still over his eyes, didn't respond. Perhaps even though he had known this day would come, Cross really couldn't hide his shock at how suddenly it had reached them. Leave this to Dr. Nanjo and me. Cross-sama, I suggest that you first speak with Madame. Maybe she heard that, or maybe it was a coincidence. As though responding to Genji's words, Natsui came over. Her eyes were red from crying so much, but she apparently understood that the heavy responsibility that had been imposed on them even better than Cross did. Starting now, you are the head of the glorious Ushiromiya family. Let us show everyone, inside and out, that you have splendidly succeeded your father. As your wife, I, Natsui, am prepared to serve you until the day our coffins are laid down alongside each other. Trying to encourage her husband, who was overcome with shock, Natsui lent him some reassuring words. When Kraus finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face, he looked up at the ceiling with a blank expression and let out a deep, deep sigh. Please stay strong. There are a great many people who will plan to devour everything Father has left behind. We must fight to protect Father's honor and wealth. That is the first responsibility of the Shiromiya head. I understand. I do understand. Dr. Nanjo, Genji, please take care of the legal and funeral arrangements. Especially you, Genji. I ask that you take particular care and see to it that the funeral will be a fitting one for Father. Certainly. And Dr. Nanjo, Father didn't pass away in an hospital, so... Indeed. An autopsy might be required depending on circumstances. Can't you do something about that? Even though he has passed away, Father's body is precious. Any damage done to it would not be acceptable. I understand how you feel. However, it is also important to deal with these matters properly. And I don't really know how to say this, but several of the relatives might make things difficult, yes? Who knew how those vultures after the inheritance might try to find fault with them? Ok, donc je pense que ça est en train de se passer avant les 2 jours. Et du coup, le père était vraiment mort. Enfin, le grand-père était vraiment mort. Le grand-père était vraiment mort. They might claim to have found some reason to suspect the cause of theirs, using that as a point of contention to start some trouble. Right now, it was important not only to pay Kinzo's remains the respect they were due, but also to solidify the position of the new family head, Cross. Bah parce qu'ils ont gardé le corps. En soi, ils ont gardé le corps, donc peut-être qu'il a été foutu dans le feu après. Si tu gardes le corps, y a pas de problème. Et après, tu jettes le corps là, et puis voilà. Understood. Please keep it to an absolute minimum. Make sure that Father's dignity is not damaged, even by mistake. That would be fine. Do not worry. In any event, leave Kinzo-san to us and stay back Rosso-san's side. Things will start to get quite difficult from here on out. I understand. And you too, dear. Please stay strong. Cross was still staring blankly at the ceiling with a befuddled expression on his face. Bonne nuit, VGC. Dors bien. She understood the shock and heavy responsibility he bore. Natsui understood her husband's feelings as much as anyone. I will contact the relatives. Please rest for the time being. Cross didn't respond. Natsui, thinking it to be just a bit unreliable at the moment, decided she must offer her support. Seeing her husband like this actually spurred Natsui to action, and a resolute expression rose to her face. Things will get busy from now on. Let's start by doing whatever we can right now. I'm sure my husband wants to have some time alone with Father. We should step out for a moment. Good point. After all, this will probably be the last time he gets that chance. Being in charge of a funeral is tiring work. There's no time to shed tears. If Cross were ever to be given time to cry for his dead father, that time would have to be now. Spoiler, je pense qu'il va pas pleurer son père. Je pense qu'il aimait pas beaucoup son papa. Everyone agreed with Kumasawa's words. Even so, Cross continued to blankly gaze up at the ceiling and didn't respond in any way. Natsui urged the servants to go. I'll go talk to Jessica too. That child is not a successor to the headship. I'll make sure to tell her to be fully prepared.
Wait.
As they each started to make their way out of the study, Crows finally spoke. They stopped walking. Yes?
Wait.
Yes? Hadn't she had already stopped walking, just like her husband had asked? But despite that, he told her once again to wait. From those slightly weak words, Natsui understood that he had probably stopped her because he wanted her to be by his side. The rest of you downstairs. I will stay with my husband. Please call us on the phone if anything happens.
Certainly. I thought I told you to wait!
When Cross suddenly raised its voice, everyone jumped and turned around. Unable to comprehend what she had done to spark her husband's wrath, Natsui ran up to him. What's wrong, dear? Have I said something rude? If so, please forgive me. No, that's not it. Wait a second, give me some time. Yes, I understand. It's important to sort things out inside your earth. We are just going to leave this place in silence to give you some time, okay?
I'm telling you to wait before doing that. Listen up. No one move. Not even an inch. If you're tired, then feel free to sit in whatever chair sofa you want. So just stay quiet and don't talk. Do anything.
Those unreasonable words felt like a glimpse of how Kinzo used to be. Natsui couldn't hide a slight surprise at his behavior, but which almost made it seem as though Kinzo had possessed her husband. Natsui told the servants to wait for the time being. She ordered them to sit on a sofa a short distance off, approached her husband, and spoke to him in a small voice. If you order it, I will wait however long you ask. I won't move. So please, try and calm yourself.
No, that's not it. Was it really blood, or was he actually possessed?
Cross's disorderly style of speech strongly resembled Kinzo's. As she watched this, Natsui became certain that Cross was Kinzo's son after all, and that he was the true successor, or more suitable than any other person. Natsui, come here. Cross stood up and headed towards the window, trying to lengthen the distance between himself and the servants waiting on the sofa by even a small amount. Natsui realized that he must have something secret to discuss. Yes, dear? What is it? Father dying is bad. But he has already passed away. We cannot turn back time. That's not it. It's bad that it happened now. What do you mean?
Aïe aïe aïe. Bon bah on a des explications là. On commence à avoir des réponses dans l'arc des réponses. Ok, donc ça veut dire qu'il se servait de sa fortune en disant bah ouais, j'ai cet argent là, est-ce que vous pouvez me faire un prêt? Genre tu demandes un prêt et tu dis oui, j'ai tel argent, si jamais j'arrive pas à rembourser le prêt, vous pouvez prendre cet argent. Genre, par exemple, imaginons, tu demandes un prêt chez quelqu'un et tu dis ok, voici, tu me donnes 2000 euros, je te donne ma montre qui vaut super cher. Si jamais je te rembourse pas ces 2000 euros, tu prends ma montre. Et c'est une garantie que tu vas rembourser. Donc, il a un peu fait de la merde.
I've been putting Father's fortune up as a collateral.
I won't be able to hide it when the division of the inheritance comes into question. What? Collateral, you say? How much? C'est le thème de Maria? C'est le thème de Maria, mais sans les chansons. You remember how I helped out Kondo-kun back in Melodyland? Didn't I tell you to break tie with that person? I thought you said to refuse him. Why? There is such a thing as a man's honor. I couldn't refuse. Cross claimed to hold honor as a virtue. However, Natsui knew that he must often use this as an excuse for when he reluctantly went along with some deal that he just couldn't refuse. That wouldn't be a problem if we had plenty of money on hand, but didn't you borrow quite a lot of money for the plan to turn this island into a resort? Yeah, I did. And there were people here and there who lent me a hand along the way. I'm going to repay them. I can't just sit around on my hands. You need money to repay people. You need money to make money. You can't even get started without money. Well, and even the plan for this island will be proceeding smoothly if only there hadn't been problems with the planning company. I made contact with a government official in the city. I even got the governor's word that this will become the newest travel attraction in the Tokyo metropolis. The groundwork I laid was completely perfect. My run of chance and bad timing were against me. It was just a bit of bad luck. Like a traffic accident. That was no accident. It was fraud. You were tricked. They were never drawing up plans for turning this island into a resort in the first place. That's not true. Ichikata-kun's visions was simply overflowing with foresight. The way his eyes were focused on the world and the future taught me that things I always believed to be mere dreams were only the tip of the iceberg of what was possible. Expand your dreams to the world, to the future. You heard him say that too, right? Yes, I heard. And I think I remember telling you what I thought after we returned home. I said that he was suspicious, that he only spoke of dreams and didn't have his feet planted on the ground, and that you must not have any further relations with him. Aïe aïe aïe. Grosse qui se fait scam en boucle. Ichikata-kun is a wonderful, pleasant young man. One could learn a lot from the way he lives. I can respect him despite his youth. I won't have you insulting him. That's what you said about the whole moon tourism thing. You kept saying it was visionary, that it looked to the future, that he had that aspiration. And what was the end result? Eventually you yourself admitted that it was utter nonsense, right? I was sure that something was wrong ever since that strange man showed up claiming to be a high-ranking NASA official. C'est scam d'une puissance. That foreigner was nothing more than an international swindler. Vraiment. C'est terrible hein, de se faire scam comme ça. Attends. Hop. Aïe 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 aïe. Il est un peu nul hein. Both Mr. Sonezaki and I were both victims in that case. Right now, his vision isn't mistaken. In the future, there will certainly come a time when the richest people in the world develop a liking for space travels. Oh, le copium! Je me souviens qu'on en parlait déjà dans les années 2000 de ça. Ça s'est jamais fait. Bon, à part Bezos. And the very first enterprise in that area will probably be monopolized by a single private company. That viewpoint is not mistaken. There was simply a group of international swindlers who were trying to take advantage of that fact and deceive investors across the world. I'm trying to tell you that this Sonezaki man was one of them too. Just how gullible are you? Why do you always just accept this suspicious offer without any doubts? Take that back. Mr. Sonezaki is a man with a brilliant future ahead of him. There's nothing suspicious about him. Because the dreams he speaks of anticipate the future, they sound crazy to people who can't see into the future. A woman like you can't see into the future. Yes, a woman like me can see into the future. But I can see the present. Right in front of me, I can see a pitiful husband who's been taken by sly, double-crossing swindlers and still trusts them, implicitly even after he's been tricked. Shut your mouth! You don't understand anything about money or business or economics. Don't try to butt in your on your husband's jobs. A wife should be satisfied with doing housework. Aïe aïe aïe. Je pense qu'il est pas... Il est pas prêt à devenir le successeur, lui. Hein. Keep your mouth shut.
Without another word, Natsuki was silent, just as Cross had hoped she would. She was already far beyond anger and sadness. The emotion that lay on the other side of those was an almost indifferent pity. Cross, who had been in awe of Kinzo since he was very young, had started to subconsciously admire the way his father lived. Without realizing it, he had come to believe that he could only be recognized as a man in his own right if he surpassed his father. However, Kinzo had been a mad genius, the likes of which had never been seen before in the Yoshinomiya family's long history. That talent was a gift from heaven, and it definitely wasn't genetic, much less something that could be learned. To give the two of them a chance to talk alone, Natsui told the servants not to tell anyone about Kinzo's death, and they left the room for the time being. Then she invited Cross to her bedroom. Okay. And made him tell her everything about their current financial situation. These were things that Natsui hadn't been told about, under the assumption that a woman had no business knowing. Natsui had herself made a point of avoiding this area in the past, thinking that it wasn't a wife's place to intrude in such matters. However, this might also have meant that she had abandoned their duty as a wife to protect her family. The depths of this sin had been made quite clear to Natsui. Cross was probably tired of trying to defend himself. Perhaps because he had gotten an headache, he hid his face and sank into silence. Natsui noticed that the water in the electric kettle was boiling and stood up to refill a cup with black tea. When she touched the cup of black tea, she noticed it for the first time. The sound of the cup and saucer clanging together told her that her fingers were shaking. Cross had built up a large debt to obtain funds for his various projects, and to cover the losses when they failed. Of course, he had put the mansion and property up as collateral. However, doing such a thing above board would result in the mortgage being registered. In other words, there would be a record that Cross had put Kinzo's wealth up as collateral to obtain a loan without anyone's permission. Kinzo, Eva, and the others must not learn of such a thing. Ok, alors, du coup, moi j'ai un... Là, vraiment, celui qui a besoin de plus d'argent, c'est Kraus. De très loin. Et, comme on sait du premier jeu, visiblement, il sait que l'or existe puisqu'il a un lingot. Du coup, est-ce que il serait pas fait passer blabla pour Kinzo ou pour la sorcière et tout, et il aurait mis au défi les autres de vraiment trouver l'or en mode trouvez-le, c'est très important, sinon... Voilà, et après ils récupèrent l'or et ils sont tous riches. Et ils règlent le problème. Kinzo, Eva, and the others must not learn of such a thing. Therefore, Cross had been putting those assets up as collateral using the worst possible method. Oh là là! Qu'est-ce qu'il a fait? I signed over the deeds on power of attorney. And what does that mean? What Cross was saying probably meant that he had, in essence, signed away the rights to his assets. If these assets had been used as collateral for a loan, then Cross would still have some leeway under the law. He would have to deal with a bank, which would have absolutely no compassion, but they would be able to work something out within the rules set by society. However, signing away the deed on power of attorney was a whole different story. In other words, even the mansion they were living in. If the person holding the deed were to decide to ignore his agreement with Cross and sell the mansion to a third party right this moment, they would have no recourse whatsoever. Far from using collateral as a loan, it was basically the same as selling their house to borrow money. C'est très très la merde. In other words, The moneylenders have the power to make or break the Ushinomiya family as they please. If they were to suddenly sell our house on some slight whim, we'd have to pack our bags and leave right now, wouldn't we? That is technically true. However, everyone I have had dealings with is very respectable, reputable. This isn't some consumer financing. It's a transaction based on trust between economically literate men. Après, vu comment il se fait scam à chaque fois, je ferais pas trop confiance au bousin. I trust them. And they in turn trust that by lending me money, I will achieve great success in business and give them massive returns on their investment. Et à qui t'as demandé de l'argent? À la famille de Kyrie. I signed over the power of attorney as a sign of good faith, so that they wouldn't have to doubt in the certain success of my business. What happens if I hesitate now? Wouldn't that mean that even I have no confidence in my own business? If you were such a successful businessman, we wouldn't be in debt now, would we? We only barely stopped ourselves from saying that. Father is dead. What happens next? Will your debt be exposed to the light of day, and will your siblings hold you responsible? That won't be all. It will probably lead to criminal charges. Criminal charges? Why is that? It's better if you don't know. Anyway, it must not be learned by anyone. Ok, d'accord. Cross looked at the floor shamefully, shaking his head over and over. If it will come to criminal charges, then he must have broken some laws. He's probably been so intent on raising a large sum of money that nothing had mattered to him but survival. Cross had seriously believed that he would succeed with several businesses and that he would definitely gain a huge profit. So he had figured that even if he stepped over a few legal lines, he would be able to pay everything back before too long and pretend that the whole thing had never happened. This may have been the factor that lessened his resistance towards breaking a couple laws. And now Kinzo's death, the worst possible thing had occurred. They wouldn't be able to keep it all hidden for long. What will happen to us? There is no need to worry. You may not believe it, but conditions are most certainly on the rise now. The value of the city real estate I invested in will rise rapidly. Right now, I am working on a project to integrate those and construct a massive business tower. Parce que c'est Trump, en fait. This will be the most reliable of all my investments so far and will prove to be the most successful. However, it will take a little more time for that to bear fruit. It's absolutely certain, but that doesn't mean it will happen now. Will the success of the adventure be enough to pay back our debt? Of course it will. I'll be able to wipe out all of the debts we've accumulated so far. So have faith in me. I only need a little more time. But Father is already dead. We don't have that kind of time anymore, do we? No, I know that. That's why I have to obtain money from somewhere and pay off those debts right now. Anyway, I need money. Money, a lot of it right now. As Cross roared and clutched at his head, he writhed about as if in pain. As she watched, several emotions swirled about in Nasui's chest. Her emotions conflicted as she felt pity for her husband, while also feeling that he was a fool. And she felt a mixture of resentment and regret towards towards her own irresponsibility in letting her husband run wild for so long. Even if this day hadn't come, it should have been clear that they were in a very critical situation. And yet he had carelessly waited for this moment to come, and was now racing about. Her husband was so foolish and so pitiful. It would be easy to let herself get fed up by this. However, she was his wife. For a wife, ridiculing her husband as a fool would run in conflict with her responsibilities. If he was a fool, then she would have to support him enough to compensate. However, she didn't have a clue what she should do. Since there had been such a massive amount of money within arm's reach, it was only natural that Cross had tried to dip his hands into it. It would also be easy to tell him to be a man and give up on all of it. That would also run in conflict with her responsibilities. She was Ushiromiya Natsui, the woman who had become Cross's wife and sworn to support him, the new head of the Ushiromiya family for her whole life. She had to somehow help her husband in his effort to raise money. She understood it logically, but she couldn't suppress the indescribable dejection that seemed to rise up from the dark depths of her heart. That's right. Father's hidden gold. 10 tons of gold is worth 20 billion yens. If I had that... That's right. If I had that, all our problems will be solved. That's sweet, that's it. The witch's epitaph. Est-ce que je l'ai pas cool? Il est désespéré, alors il fait tout pour que les gens trouvent l'or. Let's solve that. Let's solve it together. We can just find the gold. Everything will work itself out. That's right. It must be hidden somewhere on this island. If we had that. If we had that. That hurts this. Please stop it. Cross, acting as excited as if he had thought up a perfect brilliant plan, grasped Natsui's upper arms tightly. Natsui couldn't help but be dumbfounded. She wasn't just taken aback because she had heard him bring up something as fake-sounding as the hidden gold. This was Cross, who usually mocked the story of the hidden gold, saying that it didn't exist and that it was all an illusion his father had created to borrow a lot of money. That was why Natsui was doubly taken aback. Yes, let's have Jessica help us too. Maybe some things can only be solved with a child's sensitivity. This is a family crisis. All of us have to stick together. Yes, it's a fanciful riddle that Father created. We should be able to solve it, and there's no reason we wouldn't be able to solve it. It's the only way. Oh, Natsui, this is wonderful. We still have an option left, right there next to us. The gold is on this island. If we had it, every one of our problems would be solved. Natsui, get this guy here right away. Let's overcome this family crisis together. Yes, right now. The gold is on this island. It's right beside us. Unable to withstand the pain on the arm he was twisting in his excitement, Natsui knocked Cross aside. Cross tripped over the edge of the bed and flopped over onto the floor. All of yourself, and please calm down. Do you really think that this Ushiromiya family crisis could be solved by something as dreamlike as that? Natsui, please, cool your head and think of a realistic plan to gather money. I'm going to cool my head as well. Wait, Natsui. Maybe he had come to his senses the instant he fell over. Cross tried to tell Natsui to stop, but she just kept walking. After closing the door forcefully, Natsui dashed away. Natsui ran through the corridor. Even though she didn't want anyone to see her like this, she ran headlong into Genji. My deepest apologies. Madam, have you been injured? I'm fine. Leave me alone. Certainly. Ah, Genji. Nothing's going in Father's study. It is just as you left it. Although Dr. Nanjo is in the parlor. Is that so? Do you have the key to the study? Yes, right here. Give it to me. Let me have some time alone with Father. If my husband asks where I am, tell him you don't know. Certainly. After grabbing the key to the study that Genji was holding out to her, Natsui rushed up to the stairs. She then flew into the study. Finally, she let out a wail and cried. Father, please forgive our foolishness. My husband and I I'm not capable of inheriting all that you created. Please, please, forgive us for our foolishness and our crimes. And if you can forgive us, please guide the way for us fools. Clinging to Kinzo as he slept in the bed, Natsui cried even harder. She kept imagining Kinzo sitting up suddenly and patting her head. No, father isn't the type of person to pamper. More likely, he'd yell at me to stop being so noisy. However, neither of these imaginations came true, because it was an undeniable fact that Kinzo had entered an eternal sleep. But even so, Natsui begged the sleeping Kinzo to forgive and help them. It was still only a few hours after his passing. Perhaps his soul was still here, listening to her. Believing this, Natsui begged for Kinzo's forgiveness and help even more earnestly. Too noisy. Haven't I always said that I hold silence as a virtue? That voice made Natsui jump up in surprise. Eh, est-ce qu'ils auraient pas tous un problème dans cette famille? Elle est en train de nous faire une Maria, elle est en train de nous faire une ange. Elle aussi, elle est en train de croire. When she faced in the direction that the voice had come from, she saw Kinzo sitting at the study desk, holding up his reading glasses. Et du coup, maintenant il est peut-être tenté. Oui, oui. Non mais du coup ça explique pourquoi dans le chapitre 1, Natsui parle au père. Si elle est vraiment en full des Lulu, ça explique pourquoi elle parle au père et qu'elle est très contente d'être enfin reconnue comme une membre de la famille. Parce qu'elle lui fait dire ce qu'elle veut de toute façon. Le pouvoir de l'amour te fait voir les gens qui sont morts. Eh. Did you get in a fight with Cross again? Neglecting his wife like that. That Cross only inherited my bad threats. Father. What a wretched-looking face. Wash it. Aren't you the wife of the successor of the Yoshiromiya family? You mustn't let the servants see you wear such a shameful expression. Ça se trouve, c'est comme l'autre Eva, mais pour elle, c'est le vieux. Bah, en soi, l'autre Eva, c'était différent. Elle se voyait elle-même. Là, j'ai l'impression qu'elle voit des gens qui sont morts. Parce qu'on est dans le 6ème sens. Juste, elle l'aime beaucoup, elle le voit, je sais pas. Yes, father. My apologies. Natsui understood. This was just an illusion. One that Natsui had created out of her desire to speak with the memory of Kinzo as he once was. Ah! Bon, au moins... Heureux. Allô? Oh là là. Bon, je sais pas ce qui se passe. J'espère que c'est pas comme la fois où je me faisais bully par Orange. J'espère que c'est pas ça. Sinon ce serait un peu chiant. Ah putain, ça va refaire la même. Ça va refaire la même. Ça va recrash. Je vois les paquets en train de descendre, ça n'arrive jamais. Ou peut-être pas. Non, j'ai des problèmes. J'espère que ça va pas me refaire ça sur la principale. J'espère que c'est juste ce soir que ça déconne. Après, c'est possible que Orange ait des problèmes de réseau en ce moment avec la tempête et tout. Donc peut-être que cette fois, ils essayent pas de nerf mon stream. J'aimerais bien. L'année dernière, c'était la même période en plus, je crois. Hein. Bref, 2 secondes. Hop. Ouais, l'année dernière, c'était très chiant, ça. Ça a encore perdu des paquets, c'est pas censé arriver, hein. Si jamais ça recrache, je vais peut-être arrêter Umineko pour ce soir. Je suis désolé, mais j'ai pas envie de me battre contre mon stream. Mais de toute façon, on aura des sessions la semaine prochaine, si jamais ça arrive. Mais j'ai envie de continuer, là. Bano. Ouais, j'ai pas bougé, hein, c'est... J'ai... Mako marche en plus, hein, c'est vraiment juste, ça refuse de se connecter à OBS. Et ça me rappelle les fois où j'avais des problèmes. L'année dernière, pour ceux qui s'en rappellent. Ça voulait pas se connecter. Et pour moi, c'était Orange qui voulait absolument saboter Mako parce que j'en utilisais trop. Et là, en ce moment, je me remets à stream du 10 heures par jour, donc peut-être que c'est ça. Peut-être qu'ils apprécient pas trop. Mais bref, pour revenir là où on en était, Natsui est complètement délue. Mais au moins, elle sait qu'elle est complètement délue. Et ça, déjà, c'est un petit progrès. No, that wasn't it. She believed that just for now, Kinzo's soul had shown itself to her. She was sure that adopting this would cause it to vanish in an instant. It seems that at the instant the family headship was passed on, the family has reached a crisis. Yes, father. I wasn't able to support my husband. I am truly very sorry. The Ishinomiya family is so very cursed. It was in a terrible state when I succeeded the headship too. That makes your suffering seem almost cute in comparison. Kinzo's succession to the family headship had come suddenly. At the time, he had been nothing more than a single young man from a branch family, far separated from the Yoshinomiya main family. The main family might have had honor and tradition, but Kinzo had nothing to do with that. Then, the principal members of the main family were wiped out in the Great Kanto.
Re. Qu'est-ce qui se passe là? C'est quoi ton problème, OBS? J'ai même pas arrêté le stream, il s'est reconnecté tout seul. C'est chiant un peu là, non? Si ça se produit demain, ça va me faire très chier très vite. Hein. J'espère que c'est un problème que pour ce soir. Bref. On était où? Oui. On top of that, there had been a complicated antagonism between the members of the family at the time. And the elders had all tried to impose their will on the others in that sinking ship. Because of this, they weren't even able to elect a leader to revive the Ushinomiya family. Then they found a common ground and selected Kinzo, a youth with absolutely no ties to any of the opposing elders, to be the head. So the elders hadn't really entrusted Kinzo with the rebuilding of the Shiromiya family. Kinzo had been nothing more than their puppet, with his arms and legs pulled in opposite directions. Yes, I know a lot about your days of suffering, father. And then the war started. At the time, I was already tired of life. I hoped I would die on the battlefield, but I wasn't sent on the front lines. However, the state of the war grew worse with every day, and the time for the decisive battle on the Japanese mainland seemed to grow even closer. As terrible as it may sound, I prayed for that day to come quickly. After listening to the approaching footsteps of the Reaper day in and out, day in and day out, it is said that Kinzo started cutting his ties with this world one by one. And then, on that day when he had severed all of his regrets, when he reached a state of enlightenment, it is said that he had a mystical experience. It is said that he met her, the Golden Witch, Beatrice. I made a contract with the witch and was given the power of golden madness. On that day, the old me died and a new me possessing the insane power of magic was born. I know. And after the war, you used your ingenious cunning to revive the Ushinomiya family. The now deceased elders who knew Kinzo at the time had whispered to each other that Kinzo must have bumped his head on the battlefield and returned with a different personality. That was how much Kinzo had stood out after the war. Whether the story about Kinzo meeting a witch was true or not, there could be no doubt that the extraordinary experience of the war had prepared him for death and let him reach a state of enlightenment. If he wanted to describe the mystical experience following all that as a meeting with a witch, that claim certainly shouldn't be dismissed out of hand. That's right. He returned from the war, conquered the witch Beatrice, and became the head of the Ushinomiya family in the truest sense. Correct. Before I met Beatrice, I was nothing more than a puppet, only the head in name. I only became the head after conquering the Golden Witch. Je vais au moins essayer de finir la scène et puis après je pense que je vais... Hop, oui. J'avais failli oublier d'enregistrer. Blablabla. Tac, Tac tac tac. Tac tac tac. Tac tac tac. Natsui, you should understand this. The headship is not inherited by blood. It is inherited through spirit and conviction. Even though Cross is my eldest son, he cannot be called a true head if he does not possess these things. And if that spirit were to dwell in a human, even someone other than Cross, they would make a splendid new head. Beatrice will lend their power to that true head. Isn't that right, Beatrice? Ah, ça m'a perturbé. When Kinzo called the witch's name, gold butterflies sitted out... Sitting? Out of every corner of the room. This fantastical scene had an otherworldly beauty to it. It was like standing in the midst of a blizzard of golden flower petals being blown about a rose garden of gold. As Natsui stared at this scene in shock, the gold butterflies gathered and formed a human shape. Then the witch of the portrait appeared. Indeed, I am the Uchiromiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch Beatrice. I am free to run rampant. I listen to no one's order. And there's only one person in the world who can control her. Me. That is why I'm qualified to be the Uchiromiya family head. So it's that pride of yours that qualifies you? Pride requires self-confidence and bravery. And it is the embodiment of the insatiable desire to gain power to match those traits. That is why I control you. Watching men speak of pride turn this desire into reality can be quite pleasant. The quiet man of action is nothing more than an excuse used by the extremely lucky. A true monarch also speaks of what he doesn't have, and he makes that pride a reality without fail. If one is to control me, they must possess such a monarch's pride. Do you understand, Natsui? A true monarch fears no hardship. They declare that they will overcome anything without fail, even if they haven't yet figured out how. This gives hope to the weak. They gather, revere the monarch, and swear to assist him. This is where power is gained and this word is carried out. Engrave that into your earth. Yes, father. Natsui understood. Through this mystical experience, Kinzo was telling her how to prepare herself to overcome hardship. Even after his own death. Feeling a warm sensation rise up in her chest, she let the valuable words Kinzo had given her echo through her mind over and over. A true monarch, in other words, the true head of the Uchiromiya family must not fear hardship. Such a person must believe they can overcome any hardship. If they can't even believe it about themselves, then they have no chance of overcoming their challenges. Mon call. La personne qui est le plus capable de overcome any hardships pour l'instant, c'est Maria. D'assez loin, puisqu'elle croit. Donc, She suddenly felt very ashamed of the way she had entered his room, sobbing and asking Kinzo what to do. I was foolish. Of course there's no time for crying when the Uchiromiya family crisis is upon us. And now that we have inherited the Uchiromiya family from you, father, we must protect his son no matter what. Oh, even though you can't even draw a blueprint on how to repay Cross's debt? Beatrice laughed unpleasantly. No, that wasn't it. She was testing Natsui to see whether she possessed the mental readiness to be a true monarch. Natsui wasn't confused anymore. She answered clearly, gazing into Beatrice's eyes. Yes, at this moment I have not yet discovered the method we should pursue. However, my husband is the new head of the Uchiromiya family and I am his supporting wife. So I will proclaim it in my husband's place. Let us hear it. Uchiromiya class and Natsui, will definitely overcome these trials and protect the honor of the Ushiromiya family. You have nothing to worry about, father. Do you know the scope of Cross's death? As well as the horrible state things are in? Yes. If the worst happens, and we are ordered to leave this mansion tomorrow, we won't be able to refuse. During the distribution of the inheritance, the relatives might even file a criminal complaint. However, there is no need to worry. We will repay all of the debts before then and restore our honor. As she stood at attention with a resolute attitude, Natsui proclaimed this clearly with Ushiromiya Kinzo and Beatrice as witnesses. For a while, they remained silent as though weighing Natsui's resolve. Then Kinzo chuckled and turned away. How vexing. Why couldn't this person have been my son? The very fact that a woman with such a disposition married your son isn't a sign of your great luck. Beatrice, this is my final order. Now that you are no longer the head, I am not obligated to obey your orders. Oh, in that case, obey the orders of the new Ushiromiya family head. You are no longer the head, and Cross is not yet the head. Whom are you suggesting that I serve? I will leave that to you. It is up to you to decide who is qualified to succeed the Ushiromiya family head, and who is fitting to bear the mark of the one-winged eagle. You will answer that it is so. I refuse. I won't listen to the orders of a man who isn't the head. No, this is different. This is the will. The last order that the head left behind for you. And it seems I will have to obey. After all, I can be quite accommodating. Liar. Oh? You're only doing this because it caught your interest, aren't you? I can't hide anything from you, can I? Natsui. Yes, father? Go and overcome your hardship. Yes. That might have seemed like a mere response to Natsui, but to Kinzo and Beatrice, it seemed to be something of much greater significance. Beatrice nodded deeply, and with a motion as elegant as her dress, she bowed deeply before Natsui. The Ushiromiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch Beatrice, is present. I shall give you my aid to assist the Ushiromiya family in overcoming another crisis. Thank you. I will need your power. We will most certainly overcome those trials. I will not hold back on my support for your cause, but there is something I must warn you about beforehand. I understand that your troubles now could be solved if I were to grant you a vast quantity of gold like I did when I saved Kinzo from his crisis. However, that is something I cannot do. Is that so? I'm sorry, Natsui. Beatrice's gold came from a contract limited to my generation. It was agreed that it could only be passed on to another if that person solved the epitaph. The gold is sealed away by the epitaph. As long as that is not solved, you cannot be given the golden magic. I understand. Then I shall search for another method by which we can save ourselves from this crisis. My husband said his plan will take time, but he also said that it would surely be sufficient to repair our debts. If we can buy enough time for that to happen, we will be able to overcome this trial. Good, Natsui. Continue. But Kinzo is already dead. The doctor and servants are preparing his funeral. You were about to contact the family members. By your own hand, you will bring an end to this ploy for time. How charming is the guillotine when you lower the blade yourself. Startled, Natsui looked up at the ceiling. There was not actually anything there, but even so, Natsui had found something. So, the magical power has descended. Natsui, have you made up your mind? Oh, what magic of miracles do you desire from me? Et donc c'est Natsui qui a fait tout le truc en mode on va le laisser en vie. Je vois bien l'idée, Once again, all of those who had witnessed Kinzo's corpse were gathered in the study. Cross was still impatient and clutching at his head. Kenji was as expressionless as ever. Nanjo and Kumasawa wore bewildered expression on their faces. But in stark contrast to all of them, Natsui wore a resolute expression. Dear, let me ask you one more time. Your plan for raising money is absolutely certain? Yes. Give it a year, not just half a year, and it will certainly bear fruit. But it's just impossible to opt for anything right now. Then we will wait. But you said it yourself. Father is already dead. Father has not passed away. He's still there, as healthy as ever. When Nasui said this, everyone jumped and looked up. Because they instantly understood what those words meant. However, Cross alone didn't get it right away and asked her. Il est un peu lent, le Cross, hein? What do you mean by that? Father is already, in reality, right here. I will say it again. Father is still in good health. He is busy with his research, so he'll be even less able to leave his study than usual. Because of this, we must handle all external affairs ourselves, so that Father can devote himself to his research without being burdened by meaningless tasks. In short, nothing will change from the way things have been. Do you understand, Genji? Yes. The furniture of the One-Winged Eagle will continue to serve the Master. Kumasawa? And you, Dr. Nanjo? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is that truly alright, Natsui-san? It may be true that Father passed away today. But if everyone right here, right now believes, we can't revive Father with magic. It's impossible, madame. That's just too much. The time of death will be made clear during the autopsy. D'où le fait qu'il le brûle, je pense. Ça joue, ça joue, ça joue. We can't stop it from looking suspicious. Father will not pass away, so there will be no reason for there to be an autopsy. Of course, she wasn't planning to make it seem like Kinzo would live forever. The fake life given to Kinzo would only last until Cross could repay his debts. After that, Kinzo's soul would finally be able to rest in peace. Nanjo repeatedly said that the time of death would be discovered during the autopsy, but Natsui kept saying that this wouldn't be a problem. Father will not pass away by being reported dead. I see. He'll be reported missing. After clapping his hands together, Cross stood up, shaking his fists. Yes. Once we've managed to pay back the debts and finish our preparation for laying Father to rest, we will then announce that Father has disappeared. Rokenjima's vast, uncultivated forest was the perfect place to stage a disappearance. One day, Kinzo will go out to the forest for a walk and never return. They will search for him without success and then be forced to report his disappearance. If he disappears, we can't file a report of his death even without a corpse. In other words, we can't hide him long enough to have him declared legally dead. What do you think, Dr. Nanjo? Ah, si Dr. Nanjo y participe à ça... pas ouf, hein? And there won't be any problems that way. Yes, that might work. Is it really okay, madam? If we say silent, then I'm sure we could keep the Master's death a secret. However, if you were to slip up even once and let someone find out... Kumasawa, don't be so loud. Father is sleeping right over there, correct? Are you trying to wake him? It isn't a corpse. Kinzo is sleeping. As Natsui said that, Kinzo lay quietly on the bed as though there was nothing at all odd about her words. Try to remember. What fun did you have? What sort of life did you enjoy? Once again, a storm of gold butterflies started to swirl, covering Kinzo's cold body. Then, after the butterflies exploded into fine gold powder and disappeared, just like those fairy tales that have been told over and over since long ago, Kinzo slowly opened his eyes and sat up. Feather? Natsui, let me first make one thing clear. I did not coax you into doing this because of my attachment to life. You liar. Don't tell me you didn't anticipate this at least a little. How does it feel, Kinzo? How is your body? It isn't bad, but it feels somewhat like being in a dream. I feel light. You're a being that isn't permitted to remain in this world, yet you still remain here. Don't start complaining about a little discomfort now. Is your body truly alright? Is it really okay? Actually, it feels quite pleasant. If this is what the world after death feels like, being the ghost might not be half bad. How is this, Natsui? Kinzo has revived. That means a funeral is unnecessary. Your hardship has been resolved. Beatrice. As Natsui tried to find words of gratitude amidst her confusion, Beatrice waggled her pointer finger and spoke. There is no need for thanks. A ruler is allowed to be proud. I will not pay heed to requests, but I will follow orders. Even so, I'll say it. Thank you. This way, you've bought some time for my husband. We will handle the rest. Be warned, Natsui. Kinzo may have been revived, but that is not an eternal thing. It will only continue as long as my magic does. Be warned that the magic-resisting toxin might destroy the magic. You must understand the law of magic correctly and work hard to maintain it. I can show you a miracle, but it is your role to grasp it and hold it. Of course, we definitely won't neglect the miracle you have given us. Very well. Yes, it will appear masters need to be changed out every once in a while, just like floor mats. I like it. I shall serve you, Oshiromiya Natsui. I am the Oshiromiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch Beatrice. Call my name whenever you wish. I shall appear and grant you a miracle. Thank you. I am Oshiromiya Natsui. I will employ you and protect you now of the Oshiromiya family. Ok, bon. Bah du coup, ça veut dire quoi? Si ça c'est vraiment ce qui se passe, genre c'est la vraie histoire. Oh, la famille conférence de l'année d'avant, où il n'y a pas Battler du coup. Attendez, je reviens dans une minute. Allez. Alors. The rose garden was truly splendid this year. The roses were blooming like crazy, as if competing with each other. In that rose garden, Kinzo, Kanon and Natsui could be seen. Bah non, pas Kinzo du coup. What? Attends, je suis pas fou, ça peut pas être Kinzo.
C'était l'année dernière, le faux.
C'était
l'année dernière, donc il est encore en vie.
Non mais... Pour moi, il est mort avant la première, c'est ça le truc.
Comment ça, avant la première?
Pour moi, il était mort avant la première, mais peut-être que je suis délu du coup. Non, peut-être...
Ouais, moi genre, il est mort avant celle qu'on a vue depuis le début, mais ça c'est celle de l'année d'avant,
Ok,
de,
oui.
de toutes les boules qu'on a vues.
Oui, j'avais compris ça, mais pour moi, il était mort avant encore, mais ok, du coup, ouais, ok, my bad. Ok, bon, faire. Once again, the flowers have grown wonderfully this year. It must be the result of your care. Thank you very much. The weather just happened to be good this year. Thanks to your care, the garden is even more beautiful than usual. Good work. Thank you very much. If today weren't so special, we might have been able to admire the rose while enjoying some black tea. Kizo shrugged. Today was the family conference. When it came to the other siblings' businesses, none of the news had been good. Ouais, en fait, je dis ça parce que même l'année d'avant, il s'était pas montré durant la conférence. Dans mes souvenirs. Ça faisait 2 ans de suite qu'il se montrait pas.
C'est vrai, mais là on est avant la conférence.
Ouais, mais du coup, il aurait peut-être été mort avant.
Ouais, oui, peut-être.
C'était mon call, mais du coup, oui. Faire.
Écoute, c'est un cadavre et il y a de la magie, voilà.
Magie, y a pas de magie. When it came to the other siblings' businesses, none of the news had been good. On the contrary, those siblings thoroughly planned to turn the conversation to the topic of Kinzo's remaining life. And all the quiet food about the inheritance. Those people are quite unpleasant. By the way, what about Kraus? Is that debt repayment plan of his proced... J'avais raison. Il est bien mort. Ils sont en train de délulu. It does seem to be a realistic plan. However, it's a plan on quite a large scale, and doesn't seem to be bearing fruit quite as well as he expected. If possible, I would have hoped to have that resolved before today's family conference. Yes. I apologize. Are you sure you're okay, Kinzo? Casually walking around in a place like that? How'd she gotten up there? Well, it's very pointless to wonder about that sort of thing when you're dealing with the witch. Là, je donne à mettre en mine un « je te l'avais dit ». Beatrice was casually sitting on the roof of the arbor, almost as though she had been basking in the sun. Those relatives are like a massive lump of the magic-resisting toxin, and they'll be intruding in on us. If you bump into them, your soul will evaporate in an instant. I'm already dead. Evaporating will be no detriment. We can't have that happen. Please, for the sake of the Shinomiya family, lend us your strength just a little longer. Natsui, it seems the boat carrying the relatives has left the harbor. Perhaps it's about time to bring an end to this work of yours. Is that so? Thank you. Please, return to the study, father. My. How tiresome to go back inside when the weather is perfect. Don't grumble, Kinzo. Right now, you're nothing more than a ghost I gave life to. It would be troublesome for both me and Natsui if you're scattered away by the toxin. Just be a good boy, shut yourself away in the study and wrap a blanket around yourself or something. Merely receiving the chance to enjoy his roses after death makes me an extremely fortunate man. I understand. I shall return to the study. But I would like some black tea. Canon,
Tell Genji to bring me some. Perhaps some Marco Polo will do well today. Certainly. Then let us go our separate ways. Natsui, you must conduct the family conference splendidly in my absence. Of course, father. You can say it in front of them, but my husband is already the Ushiromiya family head. And I will do all I can to ensure that I don't embarrass him as his wife. Compared to Kraus, who's had a stomachache since this morning, you are so very composed, Natsui. My son is quite hopeless. Est-ce que du coup... On va réfléchir au premier meurtre et tout. Est-ce que ce serait pas juste des gens qui se sont rendus compte que Kinzo était mort et ils auraient essayé de se débarrasser des gens qui s'en sont rendus compte? Ça explique pas la deuxième. De toute façon, c'est des histoires, ça n'est pas important. My husband is talented in his own way. Supporting him where he's weak is my duty as his wife. Indeed. Carry out your task with precision. I will make sure to stay shut away, so that I don't get in the way of this farce. Canon, go with father to the study. And then have Genji prepare some black tea. I'm not so senile that I need your help to stand up. Here I go. Refusing Kanon's attempt to lend him a hand, Kinzo rose from the flower bed he had been sitting on. The retired head left everything in Nasui's hands and returned to the study at a gentle pace. You're looking well. You possess a sense of dignity reminiscent of Kinzo's deceased wife. On the off chance that the magic-resisting toxin does reach father, will the magic dissolve in an instant? Indeed. In the blink of an eye. I can vanish whenever I please, but if someone already dead, such as Kinzo, loses his form, he will be instantly tossed away like dust by the winds of the sun. You must take care. Yes. I understand. You may have talent as a witch. The magic-resisting toxin has been building up in your system over the years, and yet you are still able to understand magic. If you and I had met during your youth, you might have become a powerful witch by now. I am the wife of the Ushiromiya Cross, family head. I would become even a witch or a demon to protect his honor. I am deeply grateful for the power of your magic. I wouldn't have been able to protect the honor of the Ushiromiya family without you. Let's discuss that another time. I'd like to enjoy it with just the two of us women drinking tea. A friend of mine who went to Sri Lanka sent me some black tea with a wonderful rose fragrance. Oh, you mean Dinbula? That isn't bad. Then you should also have some patties on the side. Pardon. Oula, j'ai n'importe quoi. You must serve me some as a reward if I manage to trick everyone for this entire family conference. It's a promise. Understood. I promise. Then I'll see you later. Yes, later. The witch made her body grumble into the rustling winds, became gold flower petals and scattered into thin air. Natsui watched her go and then turned on her heels and headed for the mansion. And then there were none left in the rose garden. Ok. Alors, du coup,
si elle est là maintenant, est-ce qu'elle est pas en train de nous raconter de la merde? Genre en train d'essayer d'expliquer. Peut-être que elle, c'est juste un élément extérieur qui est en train d'essayer d'expliquer pourquoi les choses se seraient produites, et du coup, elle nous ferait un petit raconté du passé qui serait absolument pas vrai. C'est peut-être ça. Okay then. It's break time. Got any complaints so far? None at all. If you have to pee, why not just go and do it? What a rude thing to say. Kinzo is already dead, right? But he's walking around and talking, isn't he? Doesn't that mean that this is magic? Of course, I doubt this move would work on you after all this time, Burn. But what about you, Battler? Isn't this weird? Don't you have to accept the existence of the magic that revived Kinzo? If you're trying to imitate Beato, it's pissing me off, so stop it right now. Figured it out? Then come on, how are you gonna answer, Battler? Kinzo was just out of a stroll. Why not act like you always do and start holding your head, crying, "This makes no sense"? Come on, use that old "it's all useless" catchphrase and then give me one of your classical nonsense counter-arguments. There's no way a human who's supposed to be dead could be walking around, right? Is this all because of some unknown virus called the Rokanjima syndrome that causes many mass delusions? Or do the scales of a mysterious form of butterfly that only lives in Rokanjima happen to be hallucinogenic? Or is it all because of a mysterious secret organization called the Mountain Dogs, where there's an yet undiscovered drug called Pudu Pudu Pico Puyo, which causes mass delusions? Let me hear tons of this wonderful crap. Just shut up. This isn't even a problem. Grandfather is dead at this point in time. There's no way he exists. The only reason he's able to act like he's alive like this is because of Aunt Nasui's lie, her attempt to make it through the family conference while hiding grandfather's death. Oh? It's Natsui's lie? You can revive the dead by lying? Wouldn't that make it Natsui's magic? On y revient. On y revient. This world is like a brown tube before you've looked into it. It's the world of the cat box before you open it. As long as Aunt Natsui says that she took a walk with grandfather, and as long as no one can confirm that it's a lie, it's possible to display Aunt Natsui's taking a walk in the rose garden with grandfather as Natsui's reality. That means it's possible for grandfather to appear. Omedeto. That extremely unflattering applause was coming from Ben Castle. Bravo. You're much calmer without Beato around. Quiet. You shut up too. Wait a second, Battler. According to your theory, sure, it might really be possible for Kinzo to appear if Natsui is the only person there. If Natsui claims to have observed Kinzo in a world with no one except Natsui in it, then no one can deny it, right? But Canon was in the same place and he was also looking at Kinzo, right? Ouais, mais il est délulu parce que c'est un mobilier, il a pas le droit de contredire. How would you explain that? That's no problem at all. Kanan-kun is a servant who works for the Ishinomiya family. Aunt Natsui probably ordered him to keep to her story so that she could hide grandfather's death. Because of that, Kanan can't see grandfather even though he shouldn't exist, just like Aunt Natsui can. Too bad, Lambda. Battler isn't gonna fall for that kind of child's play anymore. Seems so. Well, this is nothing more than an opening, before the game's really started. Like an aperitif before a meal. An appetizer at a bar. Green tea at a sushi restaurant. Shut up! So we aren't gonna get anywhere unless I say it again in blue text, huh? Looks like it. Wouldn't you mind? The reason grandfather's tooling around like nothing happened, even though he's already dead,
is that people who want to make it seem as though he's alive created an illusion of him. People who think the same way can share that illusion. Then they'll talk as though grandfather actually exists and was with them until a second ago. That's why he's strolling around like it's perfectly natural. Because of this, the illusion of grandfather is unable to appear in front of people who weren't in on this with Aunt Natsui. That's why they made up the story of him shutting himself away in his study and refusing to come out. In the games before now, grandfather has always locked himself up in the study. We never met him directly. However, some people said things that made us think he was locked up in his study in a bad mood, such as claiming to have met him only a short while ago. We blindly accepted the statements and believed that grandfather was in the study. That's why it was possible for an illusion of grandfather to exist in the study. That's why it's in the games before now, the only people who met grandfather were Uncle Kraus, Aunt Natsui, and the servants. Because they all stuck to the same story, an illusion of grandfather was able to exist on this island, making it seem like he was alive. You even showed us a scene at the beginning of this game, where Aunt Natsui convinced Dr. Nandra and the rest to cover up grandfather's death. I'm not gonna fall for a cheap trick like that after all this time. Well, not bad. But I was hoping for the unknown drug Puru Puru Pico Pio. There's no way I'd say something so ridiculous, right? After all, supposing that such a thing exists would be just as bad as surrendering to the fantasy genre. Whether it's a virus or a drug on an illness, anything that hasn't been discovered yet is in violation of Nox's Fourth Commandment. What do you mean, Fourth Commandment? Nox Fourth. It is forbidden for unknown drugs or difficult to understand scientific device to be used. The rule states that such things can't be used during a murder. Okay. What the? Unknown drug X and unknown scientific device X should be the best kind of weapons to use when fighting against a witch. That's what I'm talking about. All of those violate the rules of a proper mystery. Supposing an unknown virus, an unknown drug, an unknown sickness, or an unknown XXX was used puts it totally in the fantasy genre. My condolences. If that was your theory, then it's game over for you. What are you talking about? You think you've been fighting in direct opposition to Beata, but that's not actually true. You haven't been in direct opposition. You've been fighting along with her from a slightly different angle. All this playing detective you've done hasn't been fantasy versus mystery. It's only been fantasy versus anti-fantasy. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. But there's one thing I do get. It sounds like you're saying there's something wrong with my fighting style. We're fighting to kill the fantasy known as the illusion of the witch. That means interpreting this tale as a proper mystery. In other words, from the very start, we have to ignore any and all elements that violates the taboo of the mystery genre. Ignore, you say? For example, several closed-room murders have occurred in the games before now, right? Yeah. At every single crime scene, you enthusiastically check with Beato to make sure there are no hidden doors, right? Then that leads to a flashy bunch of red truths sweeping together all over the place. Almost as though that itself is the battle. I call that a waste of time. After all, it's clearly specified in Nox 3rd. It is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. In the mystery genre, hidden passages mustn't exist. So if you wanna interpret everything as a proper mystery, entering this whole debate over whether there are hidden doors or not means you've lost from the beginning, see? After all, there aren't any. As soon as you suspect that they might exist, it's already game over for you. In other words, you assume you can start theory building, just because no one's yet proven that hidden door doesn't exist at the crime scene. That's why I called you naive, and a failure at the mystery genre.
You've already lost once you start thinking that. You thought you were waging a fight to interpret everything like a mystery novel, right? Then you've got to follow the conventions of the mystery genre. Well, that's it in a nutshell. Hidden doors must not exist at any of the crime scenes. That means any time spent asking whether they exist or not is wasted. I think I know what you're talking about.
I've heard about this somewhere. Is this like the 10 basic rules of the mystery novels or something?
Yeah, that's right. They're the 10 wedges for drilling witches brandished by Nox, the peerless archbishops of witch hunting. Those are the true weapons with which to fight and defeat the fantasy known as the illusion of the witch heaven. It's just like you, Bern, to bring in such a troublesome weapon. That's the fantasy genre's enemy. So you denied the existence of hidden doors right from the start? Without even investigating the crime scene? That sounds more like fantasy to me. Lambda, who is in charge of the witch's side? It's fantasy. I'm the one who's fighting her, mystery. What are you? You're just barely anti-fantasy, doing nothing but dodging over and denying fantasy. You're opposed to absolutely everything, but you can't make any counter-proposals. You're like a politician from some country. Shut up! I didn't come here to speak gibberish with you two. Continue the story right now. Be quiet. That sleeping princess behind you looks like she's in pain, doesn't she? When he turned around, he saw Beato's living corpse resting in a chair. However, sweat glistened all over her body, and it felt like she was breathing a little harder than normal. She looked as though she was suffering from a high fever. Beato, what's wrong? Are you okay? What do you mean, is she okay? You sure to say some weird things? Aren't you fighting to kill this girl? We've rewound this first game for your benefit, but right now Bern has done a good job cornering our opponent and is about to break through the illusion of the witch. Her existence has been almost completely denied. It's only natural that she's suffering. Just now, even you smashed the illusion of the witch by saying there's no way Kinzo exists. Here's the proof that your attack reached Beato. This agony of hers. I tried to at least wipe away the sweat of Beato's forehead with an handkerchief.
It's true I promised Beato that I'd let her die.
But it was supposed to happen peacefully. I wasn't planning to make her suffer first. My goal isn't to make the sleeping Beato suffer like this before killing her. They had seen right through my mixed feelings. The two witches grinned. And that only ever heard because you kept hearing about the inheritance, right, Inaki? It isn't my fault. It was just an unlucky coincidence, okay? It happened to be in the corridor and heard, and it was an accident, I tell you, an accident. Could you two give it a rest? Just call it our bad luck this time and give up. If you leave a man alone, his wound will pop up right back to normal. Hopefully, Father's feelings weren't hurt so much that he writes up some strange will. The relatives took a deep breath and fell silent. Hey, you can jump around either, Maria. What will you do if Ange's Shan falls? Ange! Elle était là! Bah oui, celle d'avant, elle était là, évidemment. Sorry to keep you waiting. The boat is ready. Okay, let's go. Won't get anywhere by complaining now. We eagerly await your return to this island. Ok, donc la première fois, ils pensent qu'ils l'ont pas vu parce qu'ils auraient dit des trucs dans le couloir et il aurait entendu l'héritage. Enfin, les discussions sur l'héritage. Natsui was sitting on a bench in the rose garden, looking completely worn out. However, when she noticed that Kanon and Kumasawa were coming back, she immediately sat up straight, regaining the dignity of the head's wife. Did the boat leave? Yes. He departed just a minute ago. I see. Good job seeing them off. What is my husband doing? He returned to his room a short while ago. He's resting. Since the previous day, Cross had been almost overwhelmed by anxiety about the thought that Kinzo's death might be discovered. When the family conference ended, his weariness must have suddenly gotten a hold of him. However, the way he had refused to let even a sliver of his true intention slip out, and the manner in which he had managed to act as though everything was normal, showed that Cross's nerve was nothing to sneeze at. How was it? Did they seem to notice anything suspicious about Father? Not at all. Erasama and the rest were having a big ruckus over Master overheard them talking the inheritance, right? Wasn't their panicking just priceless? Yes, they were quite shaken up. But Kumasawa, you're quite an actress. The way you acted all panicked in the corridor made it seem like Father really was there. Kumasawa-san is quite talented at that sort of thing. Oh, come on, I don't deserve such praise. I always have to give Genji strict orders not to easily swallow your stories when you call in sick. Now that's just too harsh, madam. You really did a good job. Both of you as well as Genji and Shannon. We'll get your pay for a month's worth of past vacation time, as well as 5 extra days, just as promised. Consider this as a confidential benefit. Talk with Genji when you collect your pay so that the other servants don't find out. Ah, donc les autres servants, c'est pour ça qu'il y a que eux qui sont là pendant la conférence. C'est parce qu'il y a que eux qui savent. Et les autres, ils sont renvoyés à ce moment-là. Logique. Logique. Sure, we understand. Right. Kumasawa-san, your voice is too loud. Not good. Good point. Let's leave it at that for the time being. We should all return to our regular duties. That's right. I've gotta prepare some specialty. Tell him to serve it. Natsui let them know that she wanted to be left alone for a while so she could drink some black tea in the rose garden. The black tea that had been carried all the way to the bench was a Sri Lankan tea dimbula that she had from Miss Beato, along with some patties. Sitting on either side of the snack, staring at it curiously, the wife of the head on their witch could be seen. So this is patties? I just assumed it would be some kind of baked sweet. Apparently Natsui, not realizing that it had a curry-like spicy flavor, had started choking after putting it in her mouth. To describe it, in Japanese terms, it was like fried dumpling stuffed with mashed, curry-flavored potatoes. As an old dish, it would probably be pretty popular with the kids. However, it was something of a shock to Natsui, who expected that a treat to go with tea would be sweet. Didn't you know? Nimbula always goes with this. Black tea always goes with cookie. Oh, but chocolate is good too. You must have sweet bean jelly with Japanese tea, although salted kanbu also works. And Chinese tea goes with Chinese dumplings, though I like mooncakes too. I'm surprised. You know a lot about various cultures, don't you? Well, I haven't been living 1,000 years of nothing. I've tried refined teas from all over the world. Perhaps you could call it a journey through the world of tea. That does seem like it would be a wonderful way to travel the world. Before today, I never knew that one could enjoy tea like this. I will treasure this experience. I cannot leave Arkanjima. This is the only way I can travel. What about you? I'm sure you've elegantly traveled the world like any wealthy wife might. Before Jessica was born, my husband took me to many countries. For marrying, I never once traveled overseas, so each time was a fresh and new experience. Sounds like you were also born into a very rigid family. It was strict, but they gave me a wonderful upbringing. It would be rude to my father and mother to call that rigid. That's a pretty eloquent way to call it rigid. Cross might have pitied Natsui, or he might have wanted to take her away from the rigid Ushinomiya family for a little bit and let her rest. Or he might simply have wanted to take his wife around countries he knew well, to show off everything he knew. Unlike father, my husband is fond of Asian nations. Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Thailand. I think we also went to Malaysia. That Cross, was he trying to rebel against Kinzo's Western tastes? But Asia is good too. After all, Japan is as strongly influenced by the West. When they think of foreign countries, only Western ones come to mind. But you mustn't forget the East. I myself knew a few things about the West, but I knew very little about the East. I seem to recall my husband making fun of me now and then during our travels. Mato softly peered into Natsui's heart, as the latter grumbled that the trips had all been very tiring. Are you listening? This is called the Nareka nut. It's a popular luxury food around here. It looked like a small, round, godlike nut that had been smashed with cucumber wedged in it. At a glance, it looked as though it would probably taste like pickles. I see. So I just bite it there? As she tried to bite the one her husband was holding, he suddenly moved it away. It felt kind of embarrassing, like she was a fish after some bait. Whoa, wait up. You have to eat it a certain way. Yes, you're supposed to bite it. Bite it. Chew it. But don't swallow it. Huh? Even though you bite and chew it, you can't swallow it? Yes. Bite and chew. Don't swallow. And don't drink the juice. It will make your stomach hurt. I don't understand. Why would you eat something like that? Signal it as something like a gum. Chew it and enjoy the flavor. Then take the scraps you've bitten in the juice and spit it out into a pepper cup like this. Dear, this inside of your mouth is bright red. Wipe it off, wipe it off. Eeh. Even her favorite handkerchief, which she had wiped Cross's mouth with, had bright red marks on it. Des marques rouges? Les cercles des sorcières? And having to spit something out after you put it in your mouth. How indecent. Thinking this, Natsui adamantly refused Cross's invitation. Même 4 du Rayquaza. No way, I don't need any. This is a cross-cultural experience. What's the point of traveling if we don't do things that can only be done here? Cross kept showing, ignoring the fact that even his lips were being colored bright red. Father likes this too. He must have ordered them long ago, because he used to shoo away at them on the merchant's arrays. Although it seems he stopped ever since you arrived. Look here, Father, the person you respect even more than me, enjoyed these all the time. Look, don't be shy, take some. No, stop it, dear. During travel, Cross had the innocence of a child. He didn't even conceal his jealousy of the respect Natsui normally gave Kinzo. Just being able to see that side of her husband made traveling all the way to another country worthwhile. Cross urged her even harder to bite it, but Natsui, undaunted, ran from place to place and finally yelled that he was being too pushy. Croft was miffed the whole bus ride. What a child, to let a little thing like this get him down. That's what he thought expiratedly. Then, a native tour guide in the bus took out one of those areca nuts and started explaining about it. It had apparently been a beloved luxury item in these parts since ancient times, similar to tobacco. Such like in Natsui's case, It was starting to be disliked by young people and was becoming obsolete. Furthermore, it was treated as a good luck charm in this area, and was known as a symbol for couples. Aww. She looked at her husband's face. He turned away abruptly, but it looked like his cheeks had gotten a little red. Haha. So, you then leaned on your husband and held his hand, did you? What the heck, you and your husband share a pretty pure love, don't you? Did you get all fired up? You know, like that night? Red face and avoiding Beato's eye, as we tried to hide her embarrassment by swallowing the patty swirl, showing with her cheeks puffed out like a blowfish. Beato said, "Yep, this is the best snack anyone could have with tea," and nodded several times, a broad smile on her face. However, that's only how it was when we were newlyweds. Right now, I cannot even leave Rokanjima. I'm a bird in a cage. Well, it's the same for me. I can't keep dying, but I just can't escape Rokanjima. I'm also a bird in a cage. I don't know much about you and I won't pry. However, I do see that your faith and conscience is not to be taken lightly. I have no desire to act like the chief prisoner here. Let's be friendly as fellow birds in this cage. I've taken a liking to you. Really? Thank you. The instructions and the orders you gave the servants for this family conference were superb. You took everything from where Kinzo would be and when, what he did and what he left behind, and put it all together splendidly without any contradictions. That detailed written plan of yours had the same beauty as a high-level magic circle. To make it look like Kinzo actually existed and was living his life his own way. She had written his schedule for the day down to the finest details and made the servants follow it to the letter. When did he meet whom and where and what did he live then? When did he do what and where and what changed? As a result, even though the relatives never saw Kinzo even once, they hadn't suspected in the slightest that he hadn't been there. Even the rest truly believed that Kinzo had just happened to be walking through the hall when he heard them talking about the inheritance and went into a rage. Everything had gone just as naturally as planned and predicted, down to the finest detail. And the cooperation by the servants had also worked smoothly, down to the finest detail. We had this to stop the secret from getting out no matter the cost. That's why I double-checked the plan thoroughly. Your willpower and attention to detail summon success with certainty. As of which, it seems that you're in Lady Delanta Delta's camp. At your current level, as soon as you become self-aware of that as magic, you will be worthy of calling yourself a witch apprentice. If you call something like that magic, then that would make Kumasawa the witch of feigned illnesses. Bafu. It's only on busy days that she calls us to say that she's taking the day off because of her bad back. Like every year in every year's family conference, for example. Oh no, you've got Kumasawa completely wrong there. She's a witch of a much, much higher level. If you knew what she really was, it would shock you. Ah oui, bah c'est vrai, c'est Virgilia du coup. Mais pourquoi? Watching these two have their pleasant chat was another pair with steam rising from their black tea. However, this second pair was in a world that the first couldn't see, where golden rose bloomed. Renaud was kind enough to make us some of that Dimbula tea too. It felt as though Beato muttered something. For the first time, it felt as though something had gotten through to her. Surely, she had taken an interest in the black tea and felt like drinking it. Thinking this, Butler took Beato's cup on her own, making her hold the cup. Beato's eyes trembled sadly and her fingers shook. Almost as though she couldn't even move her fingers as she wanted to. It was mourning the fact that she could no longer enjoy the tea she had once loved by her own power. That's how she looked. So, Butler put his hands on Beato's, grabbed hold of the teacup and lifted it to her lips. Then, though it was only a single mouthful, Beato sipped. The days they had been locked in the killing fest with red sword and blue wedges already seemed like the distant past. Now, not only was Beato unable to do that, it was even difficult for her to make her body do as she pleased. Even just drinking a mouthful of black tea like this was hard. How is it? That rose aroma makes for a great black tea. Do you like it? Qu'on va avoir Pat Béatrice à la fin du Umineko. Of course, Beato didn't respond. What happened to you? Is this another strategy? Are you pretending to be in a slump so you can shock me later? If that's what you're after, the same trick won't work again, so give it a rest. I can't get fired up with you like this. Hey, isn't it about time for you to start laughing loudly, saying "Caught you, dumbass" or something? Any kind of joke stops being funny if you drag it out too much. Especially if it's a rehash. Laugh, just like you're cackling over there as you drink with Aunt Matsui. Can't you at least grin? Never again. This child will never laugh again. The sudden words were exceedingly cruel. How can you say that for sure? Don't you try to take Beato's right to laugh away from her? Oh, should I say it in red then? I shook my head furiously. Then, with an expression that didn't reveal her thoughts in the slightest, Van Castle spoke while looking at Beato's face. The words she used were completely incomprehensible to me. Omedeto. For what? Beato is like this as a result of your victory. What are you talking about? You said something interesting in the previous game. You said this would be torture where you both torment each other. That was right. It's torture for Beato as well. And you won that torture game. That's why Beato's soul was killed. Why she became a doll-like corpse. Are you saying I did this to Beato? The battle ends when one of you loses the will to try and win. As far as the battle between you and Beato goes, that was already concluded in the previous game. Well, it probably happened without you noticing though. In that case, why isn't the game ended if I've already won? Why is this game still continuing? The shackle attached to that girl's ankle. That's a rule Lambda made. Even if Beatrice tries to yield or get discouraged or gives up, she isn't capable of stepping down from the game. That's the rule. Or maybe it's a curse. In the past, I supported you when it looked like you were gonna give in. Though you probably couldn't perceive it, I assisted you by giving you hints and making things go your way. That's why you're able to be here now. Remember? Remember how I saved you? When Castle stared at me, it's true that I wasn't aware of it, but just maybe I was saved by her. In the same way, Lambda is supporting Beato. And this time, Beato is on the verge of giving in. That's why Lambda's been giving her support this round. To keep her from giving in. That's what the shackle is. By refusing to let her resign, she rescued Beato within the game. Rescued her from what? Normally, there are only two ways for this game to end. Either one side will accept defeat and resign, or one side will win the game with a checkmate. Beato was about to collide the first way. That's why Lambda crushed that chance and managed to just barely avoid losing. By the rule of this game, that's an impressive bit of support. So the only way this game can end now is if I win. At the very least, until I do win, this switch called Lambda Delta 1 can probably try to buy time for Beato to make a comeback. But that will just prolong Beato's suffering even more. And neither of us want that. Both Beato and I fought with all we had, trying to win. The game repeated several times because we were both giving it everything we could muster. Then, that one time, we confronted each other head-on with all of our strengths, and Beato acknowledged her loss. She said she wanted me to end this game and she entrusted everything to me. So, Castle words are the truth. She said it's my fault Beato's become a living corpse. That is true, but it's something both of us wanted. Our match has already been resolved. Even so, the game won't end. That's why Beato puts her trust into me. She told me to win quickly and end this game. Now that the game's been resolved, letting it continue any further means endless torture for Beato. Nothing more than a nightmare. I've gotta give her a perfect checkmate, end this game in the truest sense, and let her rest in peace. For that reason, I will keep fighting. But by continuing the game, Beato's eternal torture will continue. It felt as though I could only let her sleep peacefully by slowly strangling her to death. I'm starting to feel like truth doesn't matter anymore. As long as Beato's satisfied, who cares what happens in this game? Beato resigned. I'll abandon the truth of the illusion of the wish and return home with my family. Is there anything wrong with that? If only Lambda Delta hadn't placed the curse of that shackle on her, this battle will already be over. That's why I found it detestable. This game, which I can't finish without tormenting Beato more, is detestable. What's this? Beato's starting to look like she's in pain every time you get closer to the truth, so you're suddenly going easy on her? Then go easy on her as much as you can. And why don't you just let Beato win while you're at it? Then your little sister can have a lonely, tragic future forced on her endlessly. That's not how it is. That's right. I have to return for Angel's sake as well. And not this isn't the time to start feeling compassion for Beato. In that case, make sure you kill her. Kill this switch without fail. Even though Beato was right there, Castle spoke without holding back. Your goal is to kill this woman. In the last game, you said it at Beato's request. You said, I'll kill you. Yeah, that may be true, but that doesn't mean you get to complain about it. Did you know? When you tear one of your fingernails out, it's better to do it in one go. Pulling it out like you do, timidly, twisting and slow, hurts much, much more. What you're doing sounds much more like torture to me. If you have any compassion, kill her all at once. That's how killing works. That's none of your business. I'm the only one who gets to decide how to perform my last rites. You and that Lambda Delta witch have nothing to do with this. I'll kill her. I won't let anyone else do it. As long as you don't lose that willpower. I'm betting on you. Okay? Make sure you don't forget. Unless this game is resolved, you will never be released. You won't be allowed to abandon this game either. I get it. I know what Lambda's after. She wants to make you lose your will to fight just like Beato. To make you a pair of living dolls. To keep this world in perpetual equilibrium. You don't want that, do you? I wouldn't like it either. Why should I give a damn about what you want? Still, I won't throw this game away. I won't abandon my responsibility to fight against Beato. I'm glad our goals are the same. So, you'll be able to kill this child without hesitation, right? That's right. I have no way of knowing whether those words ease their pain or hurt her. But I can't tell by the dull tingling in my chest that I surely believe I have hurt her. I have no way of knowing what the silent Beato feels. If I think I've hurt her, does that mean she's actually been hurt? And if I didn't think I'd hurt her, would that mean no one's gotten hurt because of me? So, how about that Beato was drinking tea over there with Natsui? You can handle that, right? Yeah, no problem. It's the same as it is when Kinzo. Beatrice doesn't exist. It's a fake illusion of a witch that Natsui created. Since she believes she was borrowing a witch's power when she thought up a brilliant plan to overcome hardship. It only looks like they're drinking together because Lambda Delta, who's the game master and the one telling the story, interpreted it that way. If you could stare at this scene without a fragment of love for Natsui, you wouldn't see an illusion like that. That's why with my eyes, all I can see is Natsui all alone, looking at tea in silence. Without love, it can't be seen. Because love is lacking, it cannot be seen. You're looking at the daydream Natsui is showing us. Beatrice doesn't exist there. Beato mumbled softly. It was a small voice that made it sound like she was in pain. The tone of Ben Castle's truth had stabbed into her chest. Yeah, that's probably true. I think your theory is right. But don't say that in front of Beato. It doesn't matter where I say it. This is Beato's world we're in. So it's not like I'm protecting Beato. But it's still possible Aunt Natsui really is drinking tea with some unknown person X who calls themselves Beatrice. This scene takes place a year before everything. The number of people on the island on this day has never been shown with the red truth. Sure. Even Lambda hasn't said anything in red about the number of people on Rakejima on this day. In that case, it's possible for Aunt Natsui to claim that she really did drink tea with a woman calling herself Beatrice. Just like I can deny your theory, you can deny mine. That means you can't say for sure that whether Beato there is an illusion or not. Oh, is it Catbox theory? That might have worked on Beato, but it won't work on me. Why not? After all, Natsui is drinking tea all by herself right there. There was a violent sound of glass breaking. And the Beato who laughed happily and cracked jokes about Natsui's newlywed years was erased. A lonely wind blew. A lonely wind blew. And the one person who remained on the bench drinking tea with a tired expression was Aunt Natsui, all by herself. Beato groaned. I could see clearly that she was in anguish. Another illusion of the witch had been smashed, drawing Beato towards death. In short, this is what the battle to let Beato rest in peace is all about. A second ago, Bancastle likened our fights to the torture of tearing fingernails out. If I had to tear them out anyway, then my last bit of compassion towards Beato should be to minimize that pain. In other words, even if I want to minimize our pain, I still have to cause it. I have to accept that look of anguish on her face. And at the same time, I realized what a merciless thing the Red Truce was. Right now, in this rose garden, there's no one except Aunt Natsui. In other words, there are no observers except for Aunt Natsui. So, if that lone observer were to say that she had some tea with Beato, no one should be able to refute that. If there's something no one can deny, doesn't that mean it's truth? Aunt Natsui is enjoying the roses and drinking tea together with Beato. How could anyone have the right to mercilessly trample that pleasant moment? The red truth is like a blade. In a battle with a witch, it's a blade that sometimes tears your theory apart, but sometimes becomes a weapon you can fight back with. I know. So what? Don't use it without reason. A blade is a tool if you use it when you're supposed to, but it's a weapon if you use it out of malice. Trenos, Aunt Natsui wasn't really drinking tea with a witch. However, saying that with the red truth probably had nothing to do with our game. Our game is the tale of October 1986. The 2 days of the crime give us more than enough time to enjoy each other, with our red blade and blue blades glistening. It isn't about the illusion of the witch, it's about Aunt Nasui's privacy. How could anyone have the right to expose that? Do you want to acknowledge that a witch actually existed here, and drank tea with Natsui? Aren't you trying to deny the existence of witches? That's right, if we're talking about our game, the 2-day period of October 4th to October 5th in 1986. But I have no desire to question whether or not witches exists whoa, outside that game board. In the first place, the devil's proof argument makes it impossible to deny the existence of witches. And according to the rules of this game, saying something like that like what you did in Red is a forbidden move that leads to a stalemate. You can't deny the existence of witches, not even with the red truth. True. I never thought I'd hear you talk so glibly about witches existing. Not bad, Lambda. You've done a good job getting Battler stuck between his human culprit theory and the idea that witches existing wouldn't be so bad. She really excels at controlling human Earth. Looks like I'd better start helping you out even more. I really couldn't care less about you two. Disappear. This game is between Beato and me. We're gonna keep this game to ourselves. No way. What? After all, I'm enjoying this game too. Van Castle disappeared, leaving only that unpleasant laugh behind. After that, all that remained was Natsui, sipping tea all alone. Beato, her hands still on the teacup as she stared blankly at the surface of the liquid. And me. Van Castle and Lada Delta. Gia called them your friends, but you really should choose your friends more carefully. Oh wait, maybe they actually make a good match with an ill-natured person like you. Vous savez quoi? Moi, plus que l'arc de rédemption, moi, si elle avait commencé par pote comme ça, je me serais fait avoir mes puissances 1000. Je suis trop sensible à ça. Je suis beaucoup trop sensible à ça, je me ferai avoir. Je vais me faire avoir une deuxième fois. Là, je me ferai avoir, mais je saute dedans pieds joints. Beato didn't answer. Butler took Beato's hand, made her hold the cup again, and brought it to her lips. Beato made a quiet sound in her throat and drank another gulp. Then Natsui's lonely tea time ended. That truth, which was Natsui's alone and observed by no one else, had been defiled. In Natsui's world, slowly, the tea party, which had been peaceful despite her annoyance at Beato for making fun of her too much, came to an end and the two of them parted ways. However, in Natsui's exposed truth, she was all alone. Natsui tottered away. On the bench, only a single person's cup remained. Aïe 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 aïe. Ring. The ring. After dashing to her bedroom, Jessica answered the phone call that had been transferred there. Hello? Sorry to keep you waiting. Butler! What do you think you're doing not contacting us for 6 years? How is it going? Really? How the hell would I know? Shut up. So that means you'll be coming to this year's family conference, right? I mean, it's been 6 whole years. Oh my. 5 businessmen in expensive suits were visiting in the parlor, giving Cross and Nasui a progress report on their business. Spread out on the table were the blueprints and designs for a building, as well as documents related to expenditures and the like, so packed that even a teacup would have gotten in the way. Officially, they were here to give Cross a progress report, but in actuality, Cross had called them all the way over to Rukenshima so that Natsui could hear from them directly. Just because Natsui needed to hear someone other than her husband explain what condition their business was in. In other words, even though another family conference without Kinzo was approaching, their business had not yet earned them any money. After telling the guests to wait for a short while, Cross took Natsui out into the hall and once again summarized the situation. In short, they said the work is proceeding even better than we imagined. This is where my personal connection to the governor really started to pay off. By now, it's absolutely impossible for this catch to get away from us. To the contrary, it's growing so big that in one go, we'll be able to regain not just the power of attorney, but everything we've lost up to this point as well. Cross spoke passionately. This made it seem all the more suspicious to Natsui, but this time at least she had to admit that everything really did seem to be going well. Certainly, this business Cross boasted of had expanded in scope over the last year, and was promising an even greater payoff that had been anticipated initially. Whether it would prove to be a winner or not, investors had gathered around it and they were rapidly gaining funds. This might be what they mean when they say money summons money. It was probably the greatest success of Cross's life so far. No, it probably would be his greatest success yet. That point was where Natsui's misgiving lay. True, it was certain, and as Cross said, they wouldn't lose this catch now. However, the fish on the line had gotten too big. We'll definitely be able to reel this fish in. There's no need to rush. It's such a success that I wish I could show it to Father if he was still alive. Yes, I know. Well, I believe you made me a promise last year. Said you were sure you could manage something within a year. A pained look rose across his face. They certainly had hooked a fat fish that guaranteed great success. However, it would require an appropriate amount of time to reel it in. Natsui pressed Kraus, asking if there was any way for them to make money before this year's family conference, but Kraus kept saying that he needed just one more year. Kraus planned to use this unprecedented success to catapult them into further challenges into the future. Because of this, he didn't want to do anything that would raise suspicion by making it seem like they were rushing to get money. Suddenly, fortune tends to turn against people who take it for granted even in the slightest. Anxious beggars never prosper. On many occasions before now, Cross had gotten cold feet and sold off businesses that would surely have brought in a profit had he just waited. Il a vendu le bitcoin, and had in effect given away his winning picks. Natsui also knew this. She knew that guts were the thing her husband lacked most. That's why she was unable to refuse when Cross said he wanted to prudently wait just one more year. How wonderful that things are going well. It would appear I'll have to sit around here as a ghost for a little longer. You don't look too disappointed. You're fated to be shoot to bits by demons the moment you leave this world. My apologies, Father. From one more year, you might not be granted peace. It is fine. Fear not, Natsui. I am no longer the Yoshiromiya family head. The ghosts of the study should obediently follow the current head's commands. I've taken a look at Cross's charts, and they aren't bad at all. Even from your perspective, Father? They're pretty good even from my perspective. Everyone is confident in victory, gathering together a significant quantity of magical power. As a result, that victory is growing even deeper, involving more and more people and magic beginning to create gold. A perfect embodiment of classic alchemy. Oh, if you've earned even the Golden Witch's approval, that is very reassuring. Rejoice, Natsui. This business of Cross's We'll save the Yoshinomiya family from its crisis without fail. Thank you very much. And if you would once again... Indeed. We'll have to overcome one more family conference, won't we? Yes. I think things went well last year, but I imagine some of the relatives will find it suspicious. I think this year's conference will be a critical time. During last year's family conference, you were correct to predict that the same thing might have to happen again. Even for those who aren't witches, preparing for the worst case scenario is one of the basics for getting one on this world. So what will you do this year? Just like last year, I will see to it that a high concentration of the servants who know Father's secrets are there on the day of the conference. Some of the relatives may already have noticed that Father isn't around. A careless show might actually put us in more danger than exposure. Indeed. It is said that too much is as bad as too little. Then what will you do? And like last year, I think we'll go with the plan that as you staying inside your study until the end. That would be suitable. Hurricanes are straightforward and simple, a final trump card. No matter how strongly the toxins fill this mansion. As long as the closed room barrier remains around this room, it will be impossible to deny Kinzo's existence. I guarantee that myself. However, when forming a barricade, it is inevitable that you will be surrounded. I know. Even so, I beg that both of you lend us your power just one more time. I cannot disobey the orders of the new ebb. Furthermore, a ghost cannot disobey the orders of the living. If you tell me not to leave this room, I will obey. Thank you very much. I'm not satisfied. If you want me to lend you my power, I won't listen to a mere request. Yes, you are the family alchemist, so I won't ask you to help. I order you to help. Your magic is the one thing you can rely on. Use that power to create an illusion of Father just one more time. Very well. I hear and obey. I find your confidence quite pleasing. From the shadows of the study, Butler watched the exchange between these three. I see. So we've made it to this year's family conference. Grandfather was in a bad mood, so he shut himself in his study and didn't appear in front of anyone. Natsui spoke boldly about how she would somehow overcome this year's crisis and protect the Yoshinomiya family's honor until the end, while Kinzo praised her, saying that her plan looked promising. Beato also praised her, saying that Natsui's dignified confidence was even more well-suited for the headship than Cross's. Elle entend ce qu'elle veut, hein. However, right now, the true number of people in this room was... The moment I saw that... No, just because I saw it. Beato grabbed at the chest and moaned. Don't worry. He's still outside the game board, so I won't deny you our grandfather over there. I put my hand on Beato's as she tried to hold back the pain deep inside her chest. I've already torn Burn Castle. The 2-day period of the 1986 family conference is all I need to deny the illusion of the witch. In the last game, you said in red that Grandfather's dead at the start time for all games. However, you never mentioned whether Grandfather was alive or dead before the start time for the games. In short, even if Grandfather exists in this place right now, that doesn't create any contradictions. Ouais, vite fait, hein. My hand touching her let off a faint blue light, which seeped into her chest. That light tenderly wrapped itself around the splinter in Beato's chest. And I also can deny the existence of a Beatrice in this place. The number of people on this island outside the game board, in other words, before October 4th, 1986, has not been proclaimed in red. Therefore, there's nothing strange about Beatrice existing there. Bebou. Beato's expression softened lightly. My blue light slowly began to melt the red splinters that denied the illusion of the witch. Beato still wore the same sad expression,
But she lifted her face and looked me straight in the eye. Though she was silent, her eyes told me that her pain had subsided. The feelings that showed in her eyes were gratitude for taking the pain away, and appreciation, or was it surprise, for leaving a tiny bit of leeway for witches to exist. Unable to look directly at those pure eyes of her, I reflexively averted my gaze. Don't get the wrong idea. I don't plan on accepting the existence of witches or surrendering. I just want to let that part slide and fight stoically, so that I can win this game against you. I have no desire to bully you outside the game board as well. Beato hung her head. I was still facing away from her. However, we waited wordlessly for a while, my hand still on hers. By now, no one would believe that this sad-eyed woman was the same person as that prideful Beato. So I asked once more. Even though I said it aloud, it wasn't a question to her. I was asking myself. Just what in the world were you thinking? That's right. Even though this is Lambda's game, I have to find you here. I have to find what you thought and what you were trying to do. Very soon this game will also reach October 4th, 1986. The 5th game will finally begin. And this time, I will reach the end. The end of that journey. I'm not worried about the surface level stuff like murders and tricks. What did you, the Golden Beatrice, think, and why did you do what you did? What were you hoping for? That's what I'm gonna find out. That's right. I already know how I can reach the end of that journey. It's been made clear to me since the very beginning. This time, I'll spin the chessboard around. Let's go! Juste pour la vanne, vraiment, j'hésite à mettre des émotes sur le fou et faire une émote échiquier qui arrête pas de tourner. J'aimerais beaucoup. Je pense que ce serait parfait. I'll read this tale not from my side, but from yours. Oh. And this time, I will understand you. I'll pick my way to your heart. I won't let you feel pain. Don't worry. I won't let those witches use you as a toy anymore. Beato looked up at me again and gave a small nod. That's right. The position of Game Master might have been snatched up by Lambda Delta. However, as long as I continue this contest with the intent of fighting against Beato, our fight will continue no matter who controls the game board. Very soon, the curtain will rise on our game. Le 5e game va démarrer, je vais juste dire pause. Hein. C'est tout ce qui va se passer. At this year's family conference, we must conceal the Master's secrets once again. Yes, I understand. I'm a little doubtful that the same trick would work twice. Madame, share your concerns. Because of that, it was decided that this year he will not leave the study even once. In other words, we'll make it seem like he's been shut away in his study the whole time? Yes, and the only ones allowed to enter the study are the three of us that haven't permitted to wear the one-winged eagle. Which means the three of us will have to perpetuate the lie about the Master. Correct. The relatives will probably question you about the Master's health and mood. Make sure you answer without any hesitation, and see to it that nothing is seen as suspicious. Yes, I understand. I'm sure you'll screw it up right away, Nessan. Maybe it's better to say you have a code or something so you can skip that day. That's mean. Kenan wasn't just making fun of her. He only wanted to release Shannon from the burden of working on this most serious of days. Genji-sama, is it really necessary for Shannon to be on duty? You can manage things well enough without her. That I cannot do. Madame gave strict orders that the three of us be scheduled to work on that day. Yes, I'm prepared to perform my duty successfully. Don't screw up. I won't. Shannon grew sullen and Kenan shrugged. Then Genji told them that they weren't taking this seriously enough. Shannon, Kenan. The Master we serve has already passed away.
However, until he was truly passed on, he has truly passed on, we will continue to serve. That study is not empty. The master is still there, hard at work on his usual research. Make sure you take that to Earth. Yes, Kenji-sama. Mais on est où, là? Ah! Ah oui, d'accord. Father has already passed away? That's insane. Settle down. It's only a possibility. It's well known that Takeda Shingen said in his will that his death was to be kept secret for 3 years. Know about that? Is that how it went? The Japanese history isn't so great. At the time, Takeda was in the middle of a war with Oda and Tokugawa. If people learned about his death at a time like that, it probably have a bad impact on the war. Because of that, he left a will saying that his death should be kept hidden for 3 years. Hideyoshi did the same thing, right? Totally suppressed information about the death of his master, Oda Nobunaga, so that the enemy wouldn't find out. Quickly made peace with Mori and defeated Akeshi in the Battle of Yamazaki. On the other hand, Shibata Katsuie failed at this. The enemy, Uesugi, learned of Nobuyuki's death, so Shibata had to deal with an unexpected counterattack and got slowed down. That's why, later on, he suffered a great loss against Hideyoshi in the fight for the succession. Hideyoshi, who had a strong fascination with the commander of the Sengoku period, would always show off his knowledge when he got the chance. Wincing slightly, Eva made him get back to his point. So basically, the whole time since last year's family conference, I felt as though something was strange. You mean the time when Rudolph and I were talking about the inheritance and father overheard us from the hall? That's just it. Last week Standard 7 kept saying father was here and there and that he seemed to be in a bad mood. But not a single one of us relatives saw father, right? If what you're thinking is right, what does that mean? Does it mean Nissan's trying to keep all of the inheritance for himself? Of course, eating someone's ass is a very dangerous thing to do. All things considered, I'm not sure Cross-Sans will be willing to do that, just to have the inheritance to himself. But it is possible. Well, it is true that Nissan had always been goody. He always used to stake things that were meant for all of the siblings, keeping them all to himself. Cross-Sans is supposed to be the richest of the siblings. Cross-Sans coming to keep the inheritance all to himself to the point of accepting the risk of hiding father's death sounds unbelievable to me. Even so, last year's family conference was so strange. I can't help but wonder. Eva and the others were painfully aware of how reckless it would be to try and see Kinzo when he was in a bad mood. So, during last year's family conference, once they heard about Kinzo getting into a terrible mood, they never made an attempt to contact him. That is why, to this very day, I don't find it suspicious that Kinzo had never appeared. It's at least worth suspecting. But I wonder if Nissan really would do something as appalling as hiding father's death. For all his pride, that man has a coward side to him. Would he really make such a once-in-a-lifetime bet? Either way, it'd probably be a good idea to make sure we get a chance to meet with father during this year's conference. Ay. The rumors are really bad. Sounds like Aniki's business is failing even worse than we had imagined. Ah! Ay. Like, he's taken massive losses and is giving it all he's got just to try and cover it up. That will make it very difficult to borrow money from him. Yeah, I could cry. Wouldn't being in financial stress also weaken Cross-Sans' position in certain ways? Weaken his position? Well, investors tend to have a keen eye. If they hear that he's actually low on funds, they won't want to have anything to do with him. I guess trust is the most important part of that business. Kaya smiled thinly. Rudolph was taken aback by that smile. It figured that his plan, which involved raising money to get him out of his current mess by borrowing from the affluent Cross, would all come to nothing now that the new Cross himself was in financial trouble. Confidence in Cross's son's ability might be a requirement for his own business in the future. But if it isn't necessary for our future. Are you suggesting that I blackmail him? I wouldn't want to if it were me. And for one blood. For one blood to take another one down is no laughing matter. Rudolph felt a shiver go up his spine at Kyrie's cold smile. At times, Kyrie was able to throw away all compassion and think in an extremely ruthless manner. Whenever he saw that, Rudolph knew he'd never like to have her as his enemy. I'd rather not threaten Oni-san. If we had any other way to get money. If there were another way, we wouldn't be worrying. Don't you think it's a bit pathetic to waste time worrying about the problem when you have no other options? Oh, le sourire! Rudolph stopped talking, folded his arms, and lowered his gaze. He still felt some of the terror he had experienced thanks to Cross's violence when they were young. And now, that same Cross was the one he needed to threaten. Rudolph would also be fighting against its childhood trauma. So, to give her husband a little push, Kyrie smiled reassuringly, and perhaps coldly. I've never been a fan of doing work based on trust. It takes hard work to build up trust, but only an instant to lose it. There's no less profitable investment. You're right. All the trust in the world isn't processing a good banknote. Even though Cross-san has been taking massive losses, he ought to be capable of gathering enough money to buy some time. Of course, it'd probably be for us to cash in all the trust it's built up so far. This is gonna get ugly. We'll have to prepare sufficiently. We haven't been given any time or room for failure. Isn't that right? Among my Kyoto friends, I know a few who are talented at this sort of investigation. I'd rather not be indebted to people like that, but do you want to try meeting them? You can't expect people like that to offer you receipts, but I'm sure they'll dig up something that makes them worth the investment. Oh. Ring. Pendant ce temps-là, chez Maria. Yes? Maria is doing well too. That's none of your business. Thank you. Huh? Well, I'll have to look at my schedule. When I was talking to Rudolph over the phone, Rosa rarely received calls from her older siblings, so she braced herself for something serious. Well, truth is, I want to have a little talk about the next family conference, without Aneki. Between you, me and Evanescence? Sounds like a headache. I can't go into details over the phone, but I think you'll find it worth listening to. Something good? Of course. Aneki is all for it. Nessan is? All we want is your approval. We aren't gonna ask you for money or anything like that. The most important thing is that the three of us stick together. Got it? Rosa let out a sigh. She did so because in the past, when Rudolph and Eva got into a fight with Cross, they always used to talk to her like this right before dragging her into it. Just tell me. I stand to get something too, yes? Yep. The three of us will grab each 200 million out of this. If it all goes well, we might be able to squeeze out more. That should be enough to handle your debts, right? And when can we expect to grab this by? Of course it will be within a year. I need it. Aneki needs it. And you need it too, Rosa. I'm sure our problems will be settled. So the chances of success are good enough that Nessan agreed to it? Now do you wanna hear? I know it's a bit sudden, but let's meet next Sunday, 19... at that coffee shop you like in Ginza. That's the only time Aneki is scheduled on Mind March. Any problems? We're talking 200 millions. I have no choice but to listen. Then let's meet at 7 PM next Sunday at Leopold's. And Maya-chan. You can bring her too if you want. Don't talk about money in front of that child. Elle va encore abandonner Maria un soir. pour changer. She set the receiver down with a clunk, a little violently. Apparently, either Eva or Rudolph had gotten a hold of one of Cross's weak points. They would probably threaten him with that at the next family conference and force him to pay up. Even before hearing the details, she knew full well that it would be nothing good. But even so, this might be her once-in-a-lifetime chance to pay back her large debts. Rosa took a notebook out of her handbag and started to mark the day she'd be meeting with Rudolph and Eva. Then she frowned and smacked herself hard in the forehead. Because written there was Disneyland with Maya, something she had planned to do with her daughter. Maya was in her room, playing around excitedly with Sakutaro and the others. That was because she was going to go to that recently built amusement park, Disneyland. J'avais raison. The following Sunday. Attends. Je crois qu'en plus ça colle. Ouverture de Disneyland Tokyo. Disneyland Tokyo. Tac. C'est ouvert en 83. Ça colle. Looking at the clock, Rosa saw that it was just past 9 that night. Maya was breaking the lights out rules. After covering her face and agonizing for a while. Oh non. Est-ce qu'elle va profiter du fait qu'elle avait laissé la lumière allumée pour dire ok, t'as pas été sage, on va pas à Disneyland. Elle fait ça. Bon, c'est déjà une mère de merde en fait, y'a rien qui change. Rosa stood up and stomped over to Maya's room. The room would probably be a mess as well. At least tonight, that was convenient. As she stood outside the door to Maya's room, listening to the happy laughter seeping through, Rosa's face twisted in anguish once again, and she looked at the floor. Then, when she raised her head again, her brow was furrowed and her face had become an ugly expression of anger. Connasse! The weather wasn't that great. According to the weekend forecast, a certain tropical cyclone would likely grow into a large typhoon. If unhappy premonitions tend to be right, this year's family conference will probably take place in absolutely horrible weather. Now, I wish a typhoon large enough to stop all boat travel would seal Rokkanjima away forever. If that happened, I'd be able to hide Kinzo's death as long as I wanted. If only the typhoon would keep them at bay forever. Natsuki let out a deep sigh. Just doing that made her headache throb. C'est pour ça qu'elle avait mal au crâne tout du long. Tout le chapitre 1, elle a mal au crâne. Genre, elle en peut plus, mais c'est pour ça. C'est parce qu'elle est stressée à cause de ça, en fait. At that time, the phone rang. Natsui turned the TV off and picked up the receiver. Hello? I apologize for calling during your rest. It is Genji. Something the matter? There is a phone call for you on the external line. However, they will not state their name. They aren't saying their name? Yes. The person in question said you would know when you spoke with them. What should be done? It might be a prank. What did he sound like? I believe it was a young man. Any idea what it might be? A young man? That's why we didn't have a clue what that might be. In the first place, there was no one amongst our acquaintance who would do something as rude as refusing to state their name. And on top of that, a young man? As a wife, she must avoid any contact that might be considered suspicious with anyone other than her husband, much less a young man. As soon as she saw this, the phone call suddenly seemed like something dirty. But despite that, she also wanted to know what they wanted to tell her. Could it be some kind of trouble related to Cross's business? What if there was some particular reason they needed to talk to Cross's wife instead of Cross directly? No matter what it is, it's my duty as a wife to listen and report to Cross. If it's some bizarre threat, I just have to firmly refuse and inform Cross that I received such a phone call. If it's something offensive, I don't have to tell Genji to never send me anonymous calls again. As Natsui thought this, just as Genji was suggesting that he hung up on the man as though that's what she'd naturally choose, she told him to connect her to this person. She then set the receiver down. After a short while, the phone rang again. Hello? This wasn't the internal line. It was the external phone which Genji had redirected to her, so it should already have been connected directly with the mysterious man. However, the person on the other end didn't respond. Not liking this at all, Natsui spoke one more time, sounding displeased. Hello? Who is this? Tell me your name. She heard something that sounded like a sigh. She gulped reflexively. After remaining silent for a little longer, the man finally answered. It's been a long time, huh? That was the first time the man had spoken. Just how long has it been? How many years? What are you talking about? Who are you? The voice certainly did sound like a young man's, but it's hard to learn much about someone just by their voice over the phone. It sounded like a young man, but it might actually be a middle school-age boy. Or mine in his prime was still had a youngish voice. But wait, it might be too soon to be sure that this is even a male. However, one thing was certain. Natsui could think of no one who would speak to her in an overtly familiar manner like this. It'd be easy for me to tell you my name. But that would make me very sad. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are you? And what business do you have with me? If you can't tell me that, I'm not interested. I'm hanging up. What I want is for you to remember. And what it is you're telling me to remember? I don't know you, so I have nothing to remember. Please do not say that. I am your child, am I not? Oh, putain. Quoi? 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 Comment ça? Comment ça? Et là, fin de la session. Ah, ce serait horrible. What did you say? What are you talking about? Do not say things that will make me so sad. Mother. Elle est trop bien cette musique. That unsettling world thrust itself mercilessly into the depths of Natsui's earth and started shunning it about. In her entire life, Natsui had never been told something so unsettling. In her bewilderment, Natsui felt her earth beat so loudly that it felt like it would explode. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what you're planning, but I'm hanging up. I came back for revenge. Revenge for your crime of 19 years ago. Natsui's mind went blank. And from beyond the wind howling outside the window, she most certainly heard the roar of the sea from that day. So, you actually do remember, do you not? I told you I don't know what you're talking about. Never call here again. I have not forgotten how you treated me 19 years ago. To curse you, I still call you mother despite that. No, because of that. The family conference will be here very soon, right? I am your son, mother. I will come on the day of the conference. After 19 years. So that I can have my revenge on you. Pressing so hard her shoulders heaved, Natsui slammed the receiver down and hung up. Then she hit the phone violently, knocking the receiver off, so that no more calls would come through it. I can hear the roar of the sea. That voice I hear from beyond the howling wind is certainly... Even if I cover my ears, they grown completely pale. Nasui kept shivering as the cold. Lambda, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I'm anywhere you want me to be, Burr. Then crawl into the cupboard under the kitchen floor. Or in a jar of rice bran paste, if you like. Oh, you're gonna dip me in bean paste and bite into me? But then I'd rather you dip me in honey. In return, I'll cook you in sugar water. At least make it sweet soy sauce with sweet sake. So what's up? You're gonna make me repeat something? That's right. Is Natsui's fun conversation here real? Nana Delta grinned unpleasantly as though sizing Bran Castle up. She was probably trying to tease Bran for making that demand. You refuse to repeat it? Well now, should I refuse or should I respond? As the Game Master, that's up to me to decide, and I get to make that decision anytime I want. Unless I state it in blue, you aren't obligated to respond. That's it. For now, you're stuck wondering about Natsui's secret of 19 years ago, okay? Make sure you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Of course, this fishy telephone call happened before October 4th, 1986. This is still before the start of the game. So there's actually no need to question whether it's true or false. Since you, the Game Master, not of your way to show me this, I'll take it as a preparatory move for something else. It might be a trick, but I'll at least keep this move of yours in my memory. So you leave without turning the card over? What? Direct attack! After suddenly being conked on the head, Amdadeta was bewildered. But rather this incomprehensible exchange was funny to her because she quickly went back to giggling. Are you done preparing the game board now? Yeah, that's right. Now I'll finally move on to the game. On to October 4th, 1986. I wonder what number October 4th, 1986 this is. The Endless Switch, huh? Beatrice. She truly is a frightening child. Any moves from your sides yet, Bran? No. If you've refused to repeat what I asked, then I'm done. Turn and right, and tap and keep and draw. Parce qu'on est dans Magic maintenant. Magic était pas sorti à cette époque. Après, visiblement, elle peut aller dans le futur, donc c'est pas grave. Je leur autorise.
Après, ça s'appelle Magic, c'est peut-être le jeu des sorcières.
Ah, bien vu. Ok, bon bah peut-être que Magic existe en fait. Come, October 4th, 1986. Et du coup, je pense que je vais m'arrêter là pour ce soir. Je pense que s'arrêter là, c'est bien. Comme ça, on commence direct dans la game la prochaine fois. Tac, tac, tac. Hop, je vérifie juste. À moins que la première phrase soit un truc de fou. Non, bon, bah c'est parfait. Pause ici, c'est parfait. Comme ça, on s'est bien remis dans le bain, on s'est bien... on a compris les enjeux du 5e chapitre, c'est parfait. Non, je m'en fous. Oui, c'est cool. Hop. Save, j'oublie pas de save cette fois. Incroyable. Tac. Et du coup, bah, on fera la suite, eh bien, la semaine prochaine. Je pense que les jeudis, je vais continuer à faire de l'Umineko. Les mardis, maintenant, je vais faire du Pokémon ou du Mario, mais jeudi, on Umineko, si ça vous va. Comme ça, on est sûr d'avoir une session l'après-midi. Et puis, je calerai ça un autre soir. Est-ce qu'il y a un soir qui vous arrange ou pas la semaine prochaine? À part mardi et jeudi.
Moi, je suis tout le temps.
Ok. Ouais. Pareil. Bon, bah du coup, je vais faire mon planning en partant du principe que vous êtes dispo tout le temps. Nickel. Bah nickel. C'était cool ce début. Je sais, je sais pas ce que vous en pensez, je sais pas si ça va vous plaire ou pas, mais je pense que du coup ça va effectivement répondre à beaucoup de choses. En même temps, c'est l'arc des réponses, hein, mais. Je sais pas. Je sens que là, la magie, on va pas en voir beaucoup. Ça va surtout
Mhm.
être vraiment en mode. Ouais, bah, effectivement, tout le monde était avait des dettes, hein. Qui l'eût cru. Ça rejoint un peu la première game, enfin le premier chapitre, où vraiment on était axé sur les finances avant que ça parte
Oui,
en couille.
oui, tout ce très long dialogue infernal.
Ouais, bah, ça avait duré 1000 ans, mais bah du coup ça rejoint un peu ça, je pense. Ça va, ça va partir là-dessus. Là, on a vraiment la confirmation que tout le monde est dans la merde, et encore plus Kraus, visiblement. Donc fun. Je me demande ce qui va se passer du coup. Comment il va gérer ça? Parce que là, ça voudrait dire qu'il était déjà au courant que le père était mort. Enfin, que le grand-père
Oui,
était mort.
c'est vrai que c'est déjà pas mal qu'on ait le pourquoi le grand-père était mort, parce qu'avant c'était juste
Oui,
un fait établi,
on
on savait pas
savait
quoi.
pas. Bah, là maintenant c'est bon, c'est sûr, on sait. On sait que du coup,
C'est une
ils
fraude
sont tous,
d'assurance.
voilà, et c'est une fraude d'assurance. Ils sont tous dedans là. Ils sont tous dedans et bon, ça explique tout. Ça explique pas mal de choses. Ça explique aussi, bah, comme je disais, Natsui qui lui parle pendant le premier volume, le
Hmm.
fait qu'elle ait des mal de crâne atroces. C'est juste qu'elle est stressée de fou à l'idée de se faire découvrir. Non, ok. L'explication se tient, mais ça explique pas pourquoi on a plusieurs games. Du coup, enfin, à moins que ce soit juste le champ des possibles et qu'on reste là-dessus. On sait pas si c'est vraiment ce qui s'est passé ou pas. Ça, c'est une
Ouais.
vraie question. Bon. Ah, ce sera la réponse jeudi, je pense, puisque je pense qu'on fera une session le week-end prochain. À moins que je change d'avis. Bon, on verra. Ce sera la surprise. J'arrête l'enregistrement. Au revoir YouTube!